Hey guys. This is part 3 of What If Naruto Became the Prince of Olympus. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 17. Uzumaki, I want to ask you for a favor. What happened here? Artemis asked in confusion with her arms crossed across her chest. She just spent a few minutes searching for Naruto. After finding out that he was enjoying his breakfast at the big house on Hera's table, his now designated table, the immortal huntress immediately headed to the place to meet him. Naruto smiled brightly when a nymph put a delicious bowl of ramen down in front of him along with a cup of orange juice, his favorite in the morning. Thank you, Naruto smiled at her before turning to Artemis. Good morning, Artemis, how do you do? Artemis raised an eyebrow at his cheerful mood, a complete opposite from the other camper's down mood, which was the reason for her question. Did you watch the Capture the Flag game last night, Artemis? Naruto asked, eating his bowl of ramen happily. He pointed to the seat in front of him. Don't just stand like that, I'm sure my mother won't mind. Artemis looked unsure of what to do. Being blown up by a hateful goddess would be the last thing she would want to do in the morning. But she sat down nonetheless and waited for a few seconds. Nothing happened. See, I told you she won't mind, Naruto said and used the spoon to eat the soup. Damn, everything the nymphs make is so delicious. This could give my mother's cooking a run for her money, he praised. What happened here? Artemis asked again. You see the boy sitting alone over there with a miserable face? Naruto used his chopstick to point to table 3, where Percy was sitting with a down expression. His name is Percy Jackson and he is the son of Uncle Poseidon. Seriously? I thought father was the only one that broke the oath. Artemis asked in surprise. She should have known better. Her father and uncles were one of the best examples of a typical male in the world in her opinion. Poseidon definitely broke a young maiden's heart by leaving her alone with a demigod. You didn't watch the game last night? No, reason for me to watch it, Artemis said blankly. Plus we were on a hunt last night. The girls are very determined to grow stronger in order to kill you for the humiliation you put them through. Tell them I'll be waiting. Naruto finished his ramen and called for another one, which the nymphs happily obeyed and ran away to make another bowl ramen for him. He preferred the handmade ramen so the nymphs didn't use magic to summon them. And why are you here? I have a favor to ask of you, she said, looking at Naruto directly in the eyes. I want you to be my training partner from now on. Naruto blinked once, then he blinked twice, his eyes still looking directly at her beautiful silver eyes. Naruto reached out for the glass of orange juice and put the straws into his mouth, drinking all the fresh liquid in one suck. Excuse me? Naruto suddenly asked, looking at Artemis with an amused smile. Are you, seriously, the goddess of the hunt is asking a favor from me, a boy? Why did I spell it right? Artemis raised her hand and tried to smack him on the head for his childish antics, but Naruto dodged her hand easily. I'm not kidding here, boy. She twisted her tongue, saying the word boy like it was something distasteful. I want you to help me training. And why is that, Artemis? In terms of experience and skills, you are better than me. Naruto said, if you aimed for the kill that night, I would have used my strongest form to defend myself and our battle would have destroyed this whole country. That is if I used my godly form. Artemis said before folding her arms together on the table. What do you think of my skills? In both close and long-range combat. I can't judge much about long range since that is not my forte, but I can see that you're an extremely skilled archer. You're able to shoot your arrow faster and with way more accuracy than I can throw my kunai, and only need about a fourth of the time I need to take aim, yet as far as I can see you never miss. It was the truth. All of Artemis' arrows shot at him until now would have hit the target if not for him catching them first. In close range your agility is amazing, the way you fight is dynamic, and don't let me start with your strength. You gods are insane in this category. In Sannin Moto I can withstand the impact from falling down on rock spikes from a cliff, and yet you managed to make me feel the force behind your attack. Naruto pointed out, he could still feel the force behind her thunderous punches, and if it wasn't for his Sannin Moto, his jaw would have been dislocated and a couple of teeth knocked out. Skills, agility, strength, and most of all 3,000 years worth of experience. I don't see any reason for you to have me train with you, but I don't know how shinobi like you fight. Artemis spoke up. You had me by total surprise with this. Sannin Moto of yours. Hitting you resembled hitting a rock. Not only that, but you managed to keep up with my speed, which wasn't much of a surprise since you can move faster. Naruto nodded with a grin. But I can't even read your movements to make out the way you fight. I want to train with you because the next time we fight, I want you to be lying on the ground, under my foot, boy. Is that how you ask for someone's help? Naruto asked. That's how I ask for a boy's help, she pressed. Alright, it's not like I have anything to do other than training these kids. Naruto nodded his head. But I am going to go back to the mortal world tomorrow. Don't worry about that. I can flash you back to this place so that we can spar and I get the pleasure of beating the hell out of you, before you get knocked to the ground again. That's how the story will go. Naruto continued her words and stood up from his seat. And for your information, I can use my power to teleport to camp whenever I want. Can we start now? Artemis asked. She really wanted to punch that smug grin off his face and show him what would happen when a boy disappointed her after she thought so highly of him. Later. With that, he disappeared in a flash of yellow before Artemis could grab him. Not a second later, in the emptied movie theater of Olympus, the prince reappeared again in a flash of yellow right at the place he left a Hirishin mark last night for emergency teleportation. Putting his hands into his pocket, Naruto headed to the throne room where the 11 Olympians, save for Artemis, were having a meeting with Hestia sitting in the middle, since taking care of the main hearth was her duty. With everything that happened last night, Naruto didn't feel any surprise when his father called for an emergency meeting like this. Without the need to knock, Naruto pushed open the doors of the throne room and walked in. The tension in the throne room was rather tense. Naruto didn't have to step inside to feel that. Zeus was glaring at Poseidon, and the older brother wasn't affected by the powerful glare one bit. He was also countering it with his own glare. The female goddesses like Hera and Hestia were trying to calm their husband and brothers down. No doubt the two looked like they just had a heated argument with each other. Aphrodite was the first one to step into the throne room and instantly put the makeup equipment she was holding away, fixing her always perfect hair, and smiled brightly at him, at the same time crossing her legs seductively on her throne, waving her hand at him. Naruto only laughed nervously and waved back. Naruto? Hera asked in surprise when she saw Naruto walking in. She was sitting on the throne next to her husband and of course at her full godly height. Hey, Mom. Naruto smiled at his mother. Naruto, what are you doing here? Zeus asked, finally stopping his glaring match with his brother and turning to look at his son, who was looking around with his hands in his pocket. Sorry to interrupt, Dad. Naruto spoke to the king of the gods. But I'm here to find out the reason why some of the campers and especially Chiron are looking at Percy like he is about to destroy the world, and you're glaring at Uncle Poseidon like he was about to help his son do that. He then turned to Poseidon. No offense, Uncle. Poseidon nodded. It is very complicated, Naruto, Zeus said while shaking his head. Look, Dad, not that I don't understand that you feel threatened by the presence of a son of the Big Three. Naruto joked, and nearly all of the Olympians chuckled at the mention of Zeus' paranoid personality. Children of the Big Three are stronger than the others, I get it, but as far as I know, you also had a daughter a few years back, right? He knew about the story of Talia and how she was turned into a pine tree by their father Zeus to create a barrier that protects Camp Half-Blood from mortals and especially monsters. Talia's barrier was one of the most powerful he had ever seen in his life. It showed how strong Talia's will to protect others was. If not for Sanimoto, he would never be able to pass through the camp border. Maybe Talia's tree recognized him as a natural spirit or something like that and let him pass. Care to explain, Dad? Naruto asked. Zeus looked thoughtful for a moment before sighing. Naruto, did you know about the oath the Big Three swore to the Sticks after World War II? About never having another demigod again? Naruto's eyes turned to Hestia slightly before nodding. I know, Dad, because World War II was actually the war between your children and Uncle's children against Hades' children. Yes, after the war we both swore to the Sticks that we would never have a demigod ever again. Zeus then cleared his throat, glancing slightly to his wife. That is only one of our reasons, because there was a prophecy announced that day, a great prophecy. The king of the god then turned to his other son, Apollo. Apollo, tell Naruto the prophecy. Yes, father. Apollo nodded his head and began to chant. A half-blood of the eldest gods shall reach 20 against all odds and see the world in endless sleep. The hero's soul, cursed blade shall reap a single choice, shall end his days Olympus to preserve or raise. And you think Percy Jackson is the half-blood mentioned in this prophecy? Naruto asked. We tried to prevent this from happening. Apparently either of them could keep it in their pants. Hera sighed with annoyance, glancing at her husband who was looking a little uncomfortable. Aside from Uncle Hades. Naruto added, thinking about the lines in the prophecy before saying, Wait a minute, why do you think that you can stop the prophecy from happening? It's after all a prophecy, right? Naruto asked. He was after all the center of a prophecy announced by an old toad many years ago. And is it just me, or the prophecy did say that the half-blood shall reach 20 against all odds? At least the prophecy said a half-blood. Naruto was also the son of the eldest gods, but he was immortal. At least somehow, we could prolong the time, Athena said while shaking her head. So we have about 4 years until Percy's 20th birthdays, Naruto said. Yes, Olympus to preserve or raise by a single choice of a demigod. Zeus sighed. Too many things happened lately. I have to return to Atlantis. Poseidon turned to Zeus and said, Aphrodite will kill me if I don't return soon and explain it to her. Then this meeting is dismissed. Zeus announced, and almost all the Olympians' gods flashed away, all save for Naruto's parents, Hestia, and unfortunately for Naruto, Aphrodite decided to stay as well and was holding a silver nail file in her hand, fixing her nails while humming to herself. Naruto. Hera walked to him and said with a low tone, making sure Aphrodite couldn't hear their conversation. With the Jackson boy now known as the son of Poseidon, Chiron will definitely give him a quest to search for the lightning bolt. What are you going to do? I will stay put, Mom, Naruto said. The lightning thief and his partner already know about me. If Percy goes on a quest, then I don't think I can lend him any help. Having me go with them won't be a wise choice. His father listened to Naruto's words beside Hera, deep in thought. He wanted his son to be the one who goes on the quest to find his weapon in Hades' Helm of Darkness, not Poseidon's boy. Are you sure, Naruto? Zeus asked, and Naruto nodded his head firmly. I understand. I will return to the mortal world tomorrow. You know I still have about 3 years left at Harvard, so better return soon. Naruto told his parent. Make sure to keep in touch, my son. Hera smiled at him and stroked his hair gently. And be careful with Aphrodite. She warned him before flashing away with her husband. Instantly Aphrodite jumped from her throne and ran at Naruto, but the blonde was faster. He quickly got to Hestia's side and sat down next to her, much to the love goddess' disappointment. Don't try to force yourself to ignore her, Naruto, Hestia said softly as she used a long stick to stir the fire. Yes, listen to your auntie, Naruto. Aphrodite giggled as she stood right behind him. Go on, she's waiting. Hestia smiled to Naruto. He didn't know if he should feel happy about this or not. His auntie, the person he trusted the most, was encouraging him to get along with Aphrodite, who last night tried to seduce him and nearly crashed his iron will down. Naruto stood up and turned around, facing the woman he feared the most in his life so far, even more so than Kaguya. She was smiling rather seductively, and the dress she was wearing clearly didn't help him at all. So? What do you want? Naruto asked, crossing his arms together. Hang around, have fun. Her hand moved down to her chest, just above her large cleavage, swirling a strand of her curly hair with her finger. Naruto then got an excellent idea to spend the last day at Camp Half-Blood before returning to his college life. A foxy smirk appeared on his face. Then I know the perfect place to start. Naruto offered his arm to her, of which Aphrodite happily linked her own with him. We're going to have a lot of fun. He turned away and grinned evilly before they both disappeared in a flash of yellow. Line break. This is not a date. Aphrodite shouted and punched a punching bag in front of her as hard as she could, which in Naruto's opinion was very girly. This is clearly not a date. Even though in term of power, Aphrodite was stronger than Artemis because she was more or less the eldest Olympian, born from the flesh of Uranus himself, she should have more strength than the goddess of the hunt herself. And yet, Naruto, being the one who was standing behind the bag, holding it, could barely feel any force from her punches. Did she only use her strength and stamina for her more intimate activities? You never bothered to train yourself, didn't you? Naruto asked. Why should I? Aphrodite asked, glaring at Naruto, her body covered in sweat, and it was somewhat an erotic sight, an extremely busty female boxer. I have my own diet, I can use my power to change my look to whatever I want, and the best one yet, I can't get fat, she said and punched the bag harder. But Naruto, still standing still, even his hands holding the bag didn't bother to move. Considering the fact that you only eat ambrosia, the thing that looks like cookies, I can't even see where the diet is. Naruto chuckled. Artemis is not as powerful as you in term of power, but she can take you down faster than you can even blink with her arrow. This time, Aphrodite punched the bag a little harder, and to Naruto's surprise, he was forced back a little bit. You two are always head to head against each other, aren't you? Kind of. Among the Olympians you can say that we're the only two opposite goddesses. We really hated each other. Aphrodite stopped for a bit to wipe away the sweat. I'm the goddess of love, she is the goddess of maidens. She likes to run wild and get dirty in the woods. I like to stay at home and make myself perfect in front of a mirror. I really love the feeling of love and she absolutely hates it. You see, I always tried to help her end up with someone good, but last time I tried that boy was stripped naked and hanged in the middle of the Central Park with the panel rapist on his chest. Aphrodite shrugged her shoulder. Kind of harsh, Naruto commented. Not even the greatest prankster of Konoha could think about pulling a harsh prank like that. Really much so, Aphrodite said and began punching again. Did you two ever fight? Naruto asked. I mean, like you annoyed her to the point she couldn't hold it anymore and shoot you with her arrows, chasing you around Olympus? It did happen before, Aphrodite said at the memories. Though I'm proud to say I'm the only target that she always missed or she just purposely missed. I tried to give her a lecture about love, it didn't end well, try kicking. Naruto told Aphrodite and she did raise her legs to kick, but she couldn't kick very high and the force was even weaker than her punch, even though the strength of the legs were 3 times the arm. Try again. Naruto pushed the bag forward, smashing into Aphrodite's body and nearly knocked her off her feet. How could you be such a meanie to me? Aphrodite asked and tried kicking again. Did you ever win against her? Naruto asked her. Tell me the truth, don't be shy about it. No, I always end up hiding somewhere. Aphrodite shook her head. Artemis is violent, harsh, rude. To me at least. You want to learn how to fight back? Naruto asked. You're completely out of your mind, aren't you? No, I'm not. Naruto shook his head, saying firmly. Artemis asked me to train with her, and as you can see I'm not always free. I'm a college student in the top university of the world. When I finish with her I can guarantee you that she will be a lot more powerful and dangerous, probably as strong as my father in terms of skills alone. You're absolutely crazy, she's already a monster, Aphrodite reasoned. But wait a minute, don't tell me you're going to place me in this plan of yours as well. Yes, I will need a training dummy for her. Naruto joked but quickly corrected himself when Aphrodite looked at him with eyes wide in horror and tried to run away. Relax, I was just kidding. Anyway, I will need someone to fight her, someone she absolutely hates so she won't hold anything back and, no way I'm in this. And, Naruto pressed, someone who also hated Artemis to be her training partner, and this is where you come into the picture, Naruto said, look at the bright side. Maybe you can beat some sense of love into her. I will be your trainer, and you will be as strong as her in no time. Aphrodite, I will say it very bluntly, but your children are absolutely useless. Aphrodite looked stunned by his announcement. Not all of them inherited your only useful weapon in the battlefield, charm speak. They didn't bother to train themselves, they didn't care much about the other campers other than the ones they saw as attractive. Why? Naruto pointed at her. Because of you, their mother, one of the worst examples to follow ever. Sorry to say this, Aphrodite, but if an actual battle starts, the cabin who will have the most death will be yours. Naruto said sadly. All because they're like you. Train yourself, grow stronger, to be feared by the others, not all because of your power over love. Naruto said strongly. You care for them, Aphrodite. You immediately claimed your children every time they step into the camp's border. You sent them chocolate every day as well as makeup equipments. Show them that their mother could be something more than just pretty face so that they can have the courage to push forward, to walk on the equal ground with the other cabins. Do you understand? Yes. Aphrodite cried out and punched the bag as hard as she could, forcing Naruto back a little. I can't hear you, Aphrodite, Naruto roared. Do you understand? Yes. Aphrodite cried out like her throat was about to tear itself apart, gathering all her strength and punched the punching bag before losing her balance and fell to the ground. Naruto's eyes widened in shock when the top of the punching bag was ripped apart, and the whole thing along with him were sent flying into the opposite wall. Naruto braced himself for the impact, but it came harder than he thought. His whole body smashed into the wall hard, creating a spiderweb crater around the wall. Holy Zeus! Aphrodite cried out and quickly got on her feet, running to him. Are you okay, Naruto? Dear Zeus, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, hee. Don't worry, I'm fine. Naruto looked up at her and scratched the back of his head. That's quite a punch, by the way. Training these two goddesses was going to be so much fun. And painful as well. Line break. Caitlyn Sharp didn't know if she should feel happy or relieved when she saw the blonde who Daniel self-proclaimed himself to be his best friend walk into the class with his trademark orange outfit. Hey Kate. Naruto smiled at her and took the seat behind Caitlyn. Naruto, my man, where the hell were you? Daniel shouted happily and opened his arms in a welcoming hug. But Naruto quickly grabbed his face and shoved him back to his seat. Good to see you too, Daniel. Naruto greeted the black-haired boy lazily. How cold? Daniel winced. How did everything go, Naruto? Caitlyn asked, turning around to face him. Good, I got everything settled down with my parents. Naruto smiled at her, giving Caitlyn a nod. The talk she gave him helped him a lot about how to settle things with his family. I got to see some of my cousins as well, and let me tell you, there was a lot of them. You had fun babysitting them, Naruto? The beautiful model asked teasingly. Of course not, they're as noisy as hell, he said and leaned back against his chair. By the way, Naruto. Caitlyn reached her hand into her bag and pulled out a colorful leaflet with the picture of herself on it. I already gave this to Daniel, but I think you will be interested in this as well. Naruto looked at the leaflet and read. Do you want to step into the professional world of entertainment? Do you want to be in the same movie with the new icon of Hollywood, Caitlyn Sharp? Do you want to know what it feels like to be the male protagonist of a blockbuster movie and loved by our passionate Sharp? Come to the audition at 9 a.m. this Sunday and see if you're the lucky guy. Sunday, it meant the morning 2 days from now. You want me to come? Naruto asked Caitlyn and saw her nod rapidly. Sorry, not interested. The experience during the mission to protect Koiki, the princess of Ice Country, was enough to make Naruto to stay away from all kind of film studio. Ah, come on, Naruto, it will be fun. Caitlyn tried to change his mind. You already got the look. I will be surprised if the director didn't choose you. Listen to her, Naruto. Daniel said very seriously. Ring of Fighters also featured Caitlyn Sharp's first ever nude scene. If you're in, you will be the first male in the existence got the pleasure of OUCH. Naruto smashed Daniel at the back of his head hard, saving Caitlyn from her moment of embarrassment, which her face already as red as tomato. So you want me in it? He asked, and Caitlyn nodded her head. Okay, since I got nothing to do tomorrow and I'm kind of short on money, I will give it a try. The idol's expression immediately brightened, and she flashed him a 1,000-watt smile. Chapter 18. Sakura, what happened to you? Naruto shouted in shock, pointing at his pink-haired teammate. Did you get fat after eating too much? You look like Kurenai-sense a while back. Baka! A pregnant Sakura Haruno shouted and tried to knock him on his head, but Naruto quickly dodged to the side, avoiding her thunderous fist. I'm not fat and I'm pregnant! Hestia couldn't help but laugh softly at Naruto's complete dumbfounded face. Today was Sunday and Hestia returned to her weekend duty, bringing Naruto back to his world so he could visit his friends. It had been 6 months since Naruto's last visit. Back then, before last year's winter solstice, Naruto returned to his village once every weekend. After the lightning bolt was stolen, Hestia didn't even have time to visit him, let alone bring Naruto to elemental nations because she was too busy calming her two prideful little brothers down. But now, with things finally settled and more or less returned to normal, Hestia was now free and she immediately brought Naruto back to his homeland for another visit. The brat is still as stupid as ever. Tsunade Senju sighed as she sat from opposite of Hestia, looking at the scene while shaking her head. But that's how Naruto is. I don't think time could ever change that, Hestia said softly, and the former Hokage of Konoha couldn't help but nod at that. It means I'm carrying a child, Sakura told him, crossing her arms together. For real? Naruto asked with a grin, which then turned into a mischievous smirk. It's Sasuke, isn't it? The pink-haired medic nodded her head, a small blush on her face. I knew it! Naruto cried victoriously. So when did it happen, Sakura? He returned to the village 6 months ago. Well, one thing led to another. The next thing I know, I was pregnant with his child, Sakura told him, blushing. Didn't know that he had it in him. Naruto chuckled. So, is it boy or girl? A girl. We decided to name her Sarada. Sakura then looked at Naruto and smiled softly. Sasuke told me that he wanted you to be her godfather. Naruto's eyes widened slightly at Sakura's announcement. Really? I'm not sure, Sakura, Naruto said unsurely, scratching the back of his head. That is a very huge honor. Don't worry, Naruto, we both won it. Sakura patted him on his shoulder. Then I accept. Naruto nodded before giving Sakura his trademark grin. Thank you, Naruto. Sakura smiled and hugged him. Sarada will be so proud having a great person like you to be her godfather. The pleasure is all mine, Sakura. Naruto then got a brilliant idea. You know what? When I have kids, I'm going to ask you and Sasuke, their godparent. I bet they will love it as well. Speaking of which, I think it's about time you find yourself a girl, Naruto, Sakura said. Did any girls or even goddesses catch your eyes at this Earth world? Nah, you can say that I have plenty problem with them, Naruto said, scratching the back of his head. One want to kill me, one want to rape me. You can get the idea. Rape you? Naruto nodded his head at Sakura's question. Who? Is she crazy? Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. Hestia was the one who said it for Naruto, with a rather amused smile as well. She is also formerly his sister-in-law, but divorced with his older brother a few days ago. She was also the lover of my older brother. Naruto groaned. Well, you can get the idea, be careful, brat. Tsunade warned him. Catching the eyes of the goddess of love and beauty? I don't know if I should congratulate you or not. Anyway, I am going to start with her training today, Naruto said. Artemis asked me to train with her, but I'm not her punching bag and not always free, so I wanted to train Aphrodite, someone Artemis absolutely hates, to be her training partner. Plus this will also be a good impression to her demigod children. Make sure to be careful, Naruto. Sakura nodded her head. I will. Naruto then grinned brightly when Ichiraku walked to his table with a massive bowl of ramen with extra fish cakes. Thank you, Ne-chan. Naruto held the chopsticks with his eyes shone brightly. Itadakimatsu. Line break. One thing you should know about us, Artemis, Naruto said as he caught Artemis' ankle, stopping her leg from making contact with his head. He promised to train with Artemis, so here he was, training inside the training field of Camp Half-Blood with the goddess of the moon. Naruto still didn't think that this goddess will need any help from him to grow stronger, since she was someone who got 3,000 years of experience in battle. However, this was also an opportunity to train his body that he couldn't miss. Fighting against an experienced opponent like her would help him a lot. Shinobi don't play fair, Artemis said calmly before the Naruto in front of her disappeared in proof of smoke and was replaced with a wooden log. The goddess then make a backflip, just in time to avoid Naruto's punch coming from the ground underneath her. The goddess jumped back several feet before pulling out her hunting knife. Leaping forward with her beautiful sliver eyes hardened, Aquani instantly made it to Naruto's hand as he used it to block Artemis' celestial bronze knife. Sparks appeared where the two weapons met, and they both tried to push each other back. Naruto pulled out a tri-prongs kunai just as Artemis brought out another hunting knife with her two hands. Their weapons clashed once again, so fast that the untrained eyes couldn't hope to follow. Naruto gritted his teeth when he was sent back a few feet on the ground by Artemis' violent push, so strong that Naruto felt like he was hit by a whole truck. The goddess of the moon took this opportunity and shot forward with her knife brought back, and when she was close enough, Artemis made a strong cut toward his right shoulder. Good! Naruto nodded his head and raised his arm to block it, and Artemis wasn't surprised when she saw her knife broke when it came to contact with his arms. But not good enough. His eyes changed and the feeling of nature once again wrapped around Naruto. Senin Moto, finally, Artemis said with a smirk, jumping back to make some distance with him. I thought you were looking down on me when you didn't use this form to fight. Look down on you. Of course not, Naruto replied with his own trademark grin. I never look down on my opponents. That will be the last thing I will think about in an actual battle. Very well then. Artemis dropped her knives, including the broken one. I think it's time I push this battle between us to a new level. Artemis charged and Naruto prepared himself for her fist. Much to his shock, the goddess of the moon got on all fours and in a blink of an eye, Artemis was no longer the goddess of the moon, but a massive Africa elephant that completely towered Naruto. The elephant charged at a surprised Naruto and crashed into him, sending him flying. Naruto gritted his teeth and turned his body in the air, landing lightly on his 2 feet and looked up, only to be met with a massive silver wolf leaped at him with its mouth opened wide, the teeth ready to bite his head off. Naruto turned to the side, grabbed Artemis' wolf body and slammed her on the ground, hard enough to crack the ground, but to his surprise the silver wolf got up almost instantly, and used her claws to slash him. Naruto stomped his foot on the ground and jumped back, but the claws managed to get to his shirt, tearing it apart. Damn it, Artemis! Naruto cried, looking at his torn shirt. This is my favorite shirt. It was Camp Half-Blood's orange uniform, so more or less they had become his most favorite clothes because of its color. Artemis only replied with a growl, circling around him slowly like a wolf stalking its prey. Didn't know you have this power, Naruto said, moving cautiously. The wolf was bigger than any hellhounds he had the pleasure to encounter, which spoke volume of how big Artemis' wolf form was. Let's say, I'm surprised. Naruto smirked. Artemis' eyes widened when he saw his hand put together, and went through various strange hand seal. But Kuchio's Yatai Kazushi no Jutsu. He cried, and almost instantly a huge aquamarine-colored toad with yellow eyes, taller than buildings and trees, carrying 2 huge katanas on his back. An orange sash around his stomach fell down from the sky, right on Artemis' body. All that could be heard from her was a painful howl from Artemis before the thunderous sound of the gigantic toad falling down to the ground from the sky completely covered her howl. "Good morning, Gamma Hero," Naruto shouted with a massive grin, waving his hand wildly at the toad. "Oh, good morning, Naruto Uzumaki. Is there anything I could help you?" Gamma Hero asked with a grin, completely unaware that he was sitting on a goddess. "Nothing, just summon you for the tradition Yatai Kushi." Naruto grinned mischievously. "You can go now. Oh, alright, see ya," the toad said before disappearing in a massive puff of smoke, returning to Mount Maiboku. When the smoke was cleared, Naruto nearly fell down to the ground, laughing his ass off while holding his stomach when he saw the pathetic form of the proud goddess of the moon Artemis lying on the ground with her body twitching dramatically. Hearing the laughter, Artemis slowly looked up with a hateful expression on her face. Blowing a strand of hair that got front of her face away, she stood up and walked at him. "What the hell was that, Uzumaki?" Artemis roared angrily. It was so humiliated, being sat on by a gigantic toad. "That, dear sister, is one of my jutsu, Kuchios, Yatai Kazushi no Jutsu." Naruto grinned toothily. "Basically, I let a gigantic toad fell from the sky and straight down to your body." Artemis' silver eyes flared with power, summoning her bow and quiver which was full of silver arrows. Hey, wait a minute, you asked me to train with you, didn't you?" Naruto paled at the hateful glare Artemis was giving him. She notched an arrow into her bow and raised her hands up, aiming at Naruto. Die! Instantly Naruto took the best option in this situation. He ran as fast as possible. Die! You damn male! Artemis roared and shot a barrage of arrows at Naruto, all aimed for the kill, and Naruto got no other choice but use both of his hands to dodge and hit the arrow away before it could impale into his flesh. Now he understood Aphrodite's feeling whenever she was chased after by an angry Artemis. Later that day Naruto groaned out painfully when he pulled a silver arrow out of his shoulder, throwing it away while watching the wound from Artemis' arrow slowly closing up thanks to Kurama's help. Even after dodging at least 200 arrows, Artemis still got plenty of them left, and she managed to land one on his left shoulder, which after that she finally got her satisfaction and returned back to her hunt. "Is there anything I can help you feel better, Lord Naruto?" A green-haired nymph approached Naruto asked with a hopeful tone. "You can get me some ramen, I'm really hungry," he told her with his trademark grin, making the nymph brighten up instantly. "I will bring them to you in a minute, Lord Naruto." The girl bowed her head. Naruto nodded his head, but then his eyes caught something interesting. It was Percy, Annabeth, and Grover. All 3 of them were walking toward Half-Blood Hill with Chiron waiting for them with the many-eyes man Argus, his mother's creation. "Make 10 bowls, alright, I will return in a second." Naruto stood up, told the nymph before running to the group. With his speed it didn't take long for Naruto to get close to them. "Oi guys, hey, wait up!" Naruto shouted to them while waving his arm wildly. "Hey Naruto," Percy greeted the Prince of Olympus and the other greeted him as well, with Grover bowing his head as deep as he could to the person who gave out the feeling of nature. "Stand up, Grover, no need to bow like that," he told the goat boy before looking at Percy. "So, finally goes on the quest to search for the Master Bolt, eh?" "Yes," Percy nodded his head. "We'll bring your father's weapon back, Naruto," Percy said firmly, making Naruto raise an eyebrow. Percy met the oracle. Naruto nodded his head. He knew about that mummy of Delphi and what it capable of. "And she gave him a prophecy about the quest, saying that the stolen will be safely returned," Annabeth explained. "Great," Naruto said with a massive grin. Then when he was about to say again, Naruto felt someone approaching and turned around, seeing Luke running at them while holding a basketball shoes. "Hey man!" Luke panted, standing next to Naruto. "Glad that I caught you." Annabeth blushed and Naruto couldn't help but make a grin. The wisdom's daughter always liked this when Luke was around. "Just wanted to say good luck," Luke told Percy. "And I thought, maybe you could use these." And he handed Percy the sneakers before saying, "Maya, oh ho," Naruto wolf whistled when he saw white bird wings sprouted out of the heels, startling Percy to the point he dropped them. The shoes flapped around the ground until the wings folded up and disappeared. "Hey Luke, got to tell me, where did you get them?" Naruto grinned. "Awesome," Grover said in awe. "This is gift from my dad," Luke told Naruto. "Wait, I thought with your shinobi power, flying is a piece of cake. Ninja don't fly, genius," Naruto told him blankly. "Anyway, I hope this give you some helps, Percy," Luke told Percy, who was blushing brightly. Hey man, Percy said. Thanks. He smiled at Luke. Listen, Percy. The son of Hermes looked uncomfortable. A lot of hopes are riding on you. So just kill some monsters for me, okay? They shook hands with each other before Luke patted Grover's head between his horns, then gave a goodbye hug to Annabeth, who looked like she might pass out. See you later, Naruto, Luke said and returned to the camp. After he was gone, Naruto turned to Annabeth and teased her. You're hyperventilating. I am not. The girl hit him slightly. Naruto only laughed at her blushing face. You let him capture the flag instead of you, didn't you? Percy asked the girl, which furthered her embarrassment moment. Oh. Why do I want to go anywhere with you, Percy? She groaned. Percy picked up the flying shoes and then frowned. He then looked at Chiron and asked, I won't be able to use these, will I? Chiron only shook his head. Luke meant well, Percy. But taking to the air, that would not be wise for you. Ah yes, the rivalry between my dad and Uncle Poseidon. Naruto nodded his head before turning to Chiron. Wait a minute, I'm a son of Zeus, then should I swim in the sea? I don't think Lord Poseidon will mind your present, Naruto, Chiron said with a smile. After all, you're in good term with almost all Olympians. Yeah, almost. Naruto nodded his head, thinking of Aries. Hey, Grover. You want a magic item? Naruto then heard Percy ask the goat boy, making his eyes lit up. Me? The son of Poseidon then helped Grover putting the sneakers over his fake feet. Maya! He shouted. He got off the ground but then fell over sideways so his backpack dragged through the grass. The winged shoes kept bucking up and down like tiny broncos. Careful, Annabeth shouted. Practice. Chiron called after him. You just need practice. Hey. Grover went flying sideways down the hill like a possessed lawn mower, heading toward the van. Percy was about to follow when suddenly Chiron caught his arm. I should have trained you better, Percy, he said. If only I had more time. Hercules, Jason, they all got more training. That's okay. I just wish, what am I thinking? Chiron cried. I can't let you get away without this. He pulled a pen from his coat pocket and handed it to him. It was an ordinary disposable ballpoint, black ink, removable cap. Much to Naruto's amusement, it was the same pen Percy used to defend himself against the ugly pre-algebra teacher, before Naruto stepped in and finished her off. Gee, I said. Thanks. Percy, that's a gift from your father. I've kept it for years, not knowing you were who I was waiting for. But the prophecy is clear to me now. You are the one. Percy took off the cap, and the pen grew longer and heavier in his hand. In half a second, the boy held a shimmering bronze sword with a double-edged blade, a leather-wrapped grip, and a flat hilt riveted with gold studs. Balance? Naruto asked. Very? Percy nodded, amazed. The sword has a long and tragic history that we need not go into, Chiron told him. Naruto was rather curious about this but shrugged it off. If Chiron didn't want to dug in, then he too shouldn't dug in this matter. Its name is Anaclysmos. Riptide. Percy translated almost instantly. Use it only for emergencies, Chiron said, and only against monsters. No heroes should harm mortals unless absolutely necessary, of course, but this sword wouldn't harm them in any case. Percy looked at the wickedly sharp blade. What do you mean it wouldn't harm mortals? The sword is celestial bronze. Forged by the Cyclopes, tempered in the heart of Mount Etna, cooled in the river Lethe. It's deadly to monsters, to any creature from the underworld, provided they don't kill you first. But the blade will pass through mortals like an illusion. They simply are not important enough for the blade to kill. Naruto explained it for Chiron and the centaur nodded his head. He couldn't explain it any better than the prince. And I should warn you, as a demigod, you can be killed by either celestial or normal weapons. You are twice as vulnerable. Chiron added, good to know. Now recap the pen. Percy then touched the pen cap to the sword tip and instantly Riptide shrank to a ballpoint pen again. He tucked it in my pocket, a little nervous. You can't, Chiron said instantly. Can't what? Lose the pen, he said. It is enchanted. It will always reappear in your pocket. Try it. Percy nodded before throwing the pen as far as he could down the hill and watched it disappear in the grass. It may take a few moments, Chiron told me. Now check your pocket. Sure enough, the pen was there in Percy's pocket. Okay, that's extremely cool, he admitted. But what if a mortal sees me pulling out a sword? Chiron smiled. Mist is a powerful thing, Percy. Mist? Yes. Read the Iliad. It's full of references to the stuff. Whenever divine or monstrous elements mix with the mortal world, they generate mist, which obscures the vision of humans. You will see things just as they are, being a half-blood, but humans will interpret things quite differently. Remarkable, really, the lengths to which humans will go to fit things into their version of reality. What about Naruto? Percy asked. He's mortal, right? Then how come he can see things very clearly? He's a clear-sighted mortal seaweed brain. Annabeth told him. They are someone who don't have a single drop of godly blood within their spines. Clear-sighted mortal can see past the mist, a feat that not even a half-blood can do. They're very rare, extremely rare. Oh, I see. Percy nodded before putting Riptide back in his pocket. While Percy talked with Chiron, Naruto grabbed Annabeth's shoulder and pulled her a little away from the centaur and the son of Poseidon. Grover got a gift, Percy got a gift. Naruto reached into his pocket and smiled at her. So it is only fair you got one as well, you don't have to. But Naruto stopped her. I hope that I can help you 3 more on this quest, because I have the feeling everything won't go like how you think it to be. Naruto pulled out a tri-prongs kunai and gave it to Annabeth, much to her surprise. Here, take this, a kunai? Annabeth asked and looked at the kunai. It was the strangest kunai she had ever seen and was very different from the usual kunai Naruto used to train her. This kunai is very special. Now listen carefully, Annabeth, when you're in danger. Naruto said with a serious tone. The 3 was about to go on a quest to find his father and Uncle Hades' power, which meant sooner or later they would meet Aries. While Aries was weak compared to the other Olympians, 2 demigods and a satyr of course stood absolutely no chance against him. They would need his help when the time come. Pray to Hestia, what? Annabeth was confused. Why? Just do it all right, when you 3 are in danger, Naruto told her. I will. Annabeth nodded and put the kunai away. Thank you, Naruto. Annabeth smiled at him, and the blonde patted her head. Be careful, and make sure to use your brain to take care of those boys, all right? Naruto told her. After that, the trio got into the SUV belonged to the camp, where Argos was waiting. Chiron returned to his centaur form and held his bow high in salute, while Naruto raised his hand and waved. I hope everything went well, Chiron said when the car drove off. Don't worry, Chiron, those kids got everything they need. Naruto smiled and turned on his heel. What are you going to do now, Naruto? What time is it, Chiron? 10 o'clock, why? The centaur asked, confused. About damn time, Naruto said with a smirk before disappearing in a flash of yellow. Aphrodite's palace Olympus, the goddess of love, hummed a soft tune to herself while sitting in front of a mirror lying on her makeup table, using a silver comb to gently comb her perfect long golden hair. It was so peaceful like this. She was freed from the unwanted marriage with Hephaestus, meaning that she could now go on a quest to search for her true love without anything holding her back. She also broke up with Aries, who now finally stopped visiting her palace asking for sexual relief regularly like before, giving her even more times to take care of her duty before finally free, having plenty of times to seduce her favorite son of Zeus and Hera. Aphrodite, the goddess of love, flinched in shock, nearly jumped out of her seat at the thunderous sound of someone knocking the door of her palace. It's time for training! Her eyes widened when she finally recognized Naruto's voice and looked at the clock. It's time already? She asked in surprise and stood up from her chair. Then, a mischievous smile, which could only promise trouble for Naruto, appeared on her face after giving a view at the state she was in. Smiling seductively, the goddess of beauty walked to the door like a queen, her hips swayed side to side sexually. Naruto stood waiting patiently outside of Aphrodite's palace. Yesterday the goddess of love agreed with Naruto's training schedule, started at 10 o'clock every morning. With Artemis he only needed to fight her, but with Aphrodite she would need a proper training. Naruto already knew how to stir her courage and confidence up. The only thing left was teach her how to fight properly. Final. Naruto turned his eyes back to the palace when he saw it was slowly opened, but his eyes nearly bulged out of his skull when he saw the state Aphrodite was in. The goddess of love simply wore nothing other than a pair of lacy black lingerie, with her large breasts supported by nothing but a tiny bra that looked like it was about to bust under the strain from her watermelon-sized chest, revealing a large amount of the top of her cleavage. Her choice for the bottom was a skimpy, overwhelming revealing thong, but of course Naruto didn't know what it called. Good morning, Naruto, Aphrodite said sultrily, leaning against the door with one hand on her hip. Naruto watched as her tits jiggled at the sudden movement. Clearly those bra did nothing to hold her large chest from doing erotic action. No, I don't think charm speak is her most powerful weapon, Kurama reminded him. And do remember why you put this goddess the most dangerous Olympian. He said nothing, only put his hand together, and went through the hand seals needed for another summoning. After finishing with Artemis, Naruto didn't think that he would need to use this jutsu for the second time of the day. Aphrodite looked at Naruto's hands, moved in interest. Kuchios no jutsu. Naruto shouted and slammed his hand on the ground, making kanji to spread around the palm and engulf the blonde in a cloud of smoke shortly after. Yo! Kia! Aphrodite screamed out in shock and disgust when a massive orange toad wearing blue vest and bandage wrapped around his waist appeared, smoking cigarette, and wielding a massive tanto in his hand, with Naruto sitting on top of them with his legs crossed together. Toad! Freaking toad! Aphrodite screamed out in fear and ran inside. How could a disgusting toad got so big was out of her imagination, but right now, all the goddess of love cared about was running away from it as fast and as far as possible. Who is she, Naruto? Why so loud in the morning? Gamakichi thundered, turning his eyes to look at Naruto. Aphrodite, a very girlish goddess, Naruto said in his first language before pointing his finger to her palace, which completely towered over by Gamakichi's size. The toad was also drawing a lot of attention from the citizen of Olympus as well. Grab her. You got it. The now boss of the toad brought out his incredible long tongue and it moved inside Aphrodite's palace through the front door. Naruto couldn't help but chuckled when he heard another scream. Ah yes, I got her, Gamakichi said before pulling his tongue back, bringing Aphrodite out of her hiding place. She was struggling with Gamakichi's tongue wrapped around her body, her legs kicking wildly to get free. Let's go of me, you disgusting creature, she screamed like a banshee. Aphrodite, Naruto said, smirking. Meet Gamakichi, and the toad's boss, my pal, yo! Gamakichi greeted her, and it wasn't like the love goddess could understand what he and Naruto was saying. This will teach you a lesson for forgetting about the training's time, Naruto said with a grin. Gamakichi will also join the training with us. I have a feeling that with him around you won't try to run away. Aphrodite could only gulp nervously. Okay, Gamakichi, Naruto said to the toad. Can you bring us to Mount Myaboku? Of course I can. Talk about Gamakichi and his ego. Gamakichi exploded into a cloud of smoke, returning to Mount Myaboku, and also brought Naruto and Aphrodite with him. Line break. Aphrodite. Naruto smiled as he stood on top of Gamakichi, with a fully clothed Aphrodite right beside him struggling to stay on the head of the gigantic toad. Welcome to Mount Myaboku. Even though Aphrodite wasn't in the mood for sightseeing, the love goddess couldn't help but gasp in awe at the land of the toads. This is amazing. Aphrodite had never seen such a rich and beautiful land like this in her life. The place completely surpassed any lands on Earth in terms of nature. It sure is. Naruto smiled. Is this how you impress a girl, Naruto? Aphrodite asked teasingly, leaning against him. 'Cause it's working, yeah, keep trying. Naruto replied blankly. A few minutes later, the trio arrived at an area where there was a fountain pouring a strange color water that looked like oil, and a lot of toad statues came in various sizes around the place as well. This is it. Naruto grabbed Aphrodite and jumped down from Gamakichi's head. You will train here, Aphrodite? Here? She asked in surprise. There are certain rules that you must follow while you're here, Naruto said and pointed his hand to the lake and fontaine. Whatever you do, don't touch that oil. Why? Because that oil will turn you into a toad. Aphrodite paled instantly. This is the place I trained to become a Sennin, or sage in your language. I used this oil during the training to help me absorb the natural energy. Without a proper training, anyone who touch it will be turned into toad and become a statue shortly. Aphrodite nodded in awe. That would explain why Naruto's eyes became toad-like whenever he got to that form. Second, treat these statues with care and respect, Naruto said seriously. Goddess or not, these are all Gamakichi's ancestors and of people who tried to learn senjutsu but failed and was turned into toad statues. You mean, they used to be human? Aphrodite asked in shock. Now she just wanted to stay away from the oil fountain. I don't know what will happen when goddess like you touch the oil, but we better not try our luck, Naruto said before walking to stand in front of Aphrodite. Today we'll start with your physical strength. Got to find some use in that enormous godly strength of yours. What do I need to do? Aphrodite asked. Without saying, Naruto walked to the nearest toad statue and entered Senin Moto. He crouched down and put his hand on the leg of the toad before lifting it up effortlessly. Naruto carried the toad statue to the other side of the area and put it down very carefully before turning back to Aphrodite, who was gasping. You need to move all the statues over there. Naruto pointed his hand to the other side of the field. To over here. Aphrodite's eyes opened wide as dinner plates. And remember to treat them with respect. Seriously? Those statues must weigh over a ton or more. Aphrodite cried. Gamakichi. Naruto called and the toad's boss brought out his tongue. All right. Aphrodite quickly ran over to the nearest statue, the smallest one, and lifted it up, walking to the other side with heavy steps. Train hard, Aphrodite. Naruto said loudly. Your children is counting on you. Line break. It was Sunday, 9:00 in the morning. It was the time for Ring of Fighters audition. This audition's purpose wasn't just for finding the young actors for the film but also a part of a program to find a new, young and potential talent for the professional entertainment world as well. So of course, very soon in the morning many people gathered into lines in front of the studio even before the audition start. Naruto arrived at the last minute, right before the gate closed up. Many of them, of course, were boys around his age and they got here hours before to be able to get ahead of the rest. This wasn't just an opportunity to become famous and try their luck in the entertainment world but also a chance of working with the new icon Caitlyn Sharp as well. And on Daniel's words, the first male on the planet could get his eyes on her naked glory. The crowd was sorted into two groups, boys and girls, but the boys were also sorted into many more smaller group of 15. Naruto stood at the bottom of his group with his hands in his pockets, waiting patiently for his group turn. He was rather curious about the audition, about what kind of tests they're going to put him through and what kind of requirements he needed to be chosen. Naruto waited and waited. Luckily enough, he wasn't a demigod or else ADHD would kill him. At last, after 2 hours of waiting, it was High Group's turn. Naruto walked in the studio and got on a stage. Writing his name down a register book, the secretary waiting outside Naruto then stepped into a stage. He saw Caitlyn. The girl was sitting beside a middle-aged looking man with a mic in his hand, talking with him with a low tone. Her hair was tied into a large braid at the back of her head. Wearing casual clothes consisted of a black shirt, denim jacket, and long jeans that hugged her long legs nicely. He could see John standing at the other side of the stage. Caitlyn's bodyguard was always on guard and around her anytime, anywhere. Okay boys, the man said, using the mic to have his voice become louder. Caitlyn will give each of you a copy of the extract of the film script. After he saying that, Caitlyn stood up and took a stack of papers from the secretary standing near them and gave each one of them a copy, also flashed them a beautiful smile. When she gave Naruto's the copy, Caitlyn winked before slipping a small piece of paper to him before heading to the next boy. Naruto looked at the piece of paper in amusement. Ganbatin, Naruto-kun. Opening the piece of paper, Naruto couldn't help but chuckle silently when he saw Caitlyn's words for him, which was written neatly in Japanese. Okay, give the copy a look and wait till your name is called, the director said before turning to Caitlyn. So that's your boyfriend? He asked teasingly, motioning his head to Naruto. He's not my boyfriend, director, Caitlyn defended with a blush on her face. You're right, overall he definitely the one we're looking for, the director said with a smile. But will he has what it takes to earn a role in the movie? We will see about that, I'm sure he will. Caitlyn nodded her head, smiling at Naruto, who was looking at the film script with a look of shock on his face. What the fuck? Naruto screamed inside of his head, his eyes glued to the film script. You're kidding me, right? Line break. Next, Naruto Uzumaki. The director called out his name and Naruto walked on the stage, being the last person whose name was called. Overall, the director was unimpressed by this group, because Caitlyn would step on the stage and act with them as well. None of the boys before Naruto was able to stop stuttering and acting like a professional actor. They even wasn't able to take their eyes away from the film script and more or less read the whole things out loud. He didn't need robot for this masterpiece of him. He already fought a lot with other studios just to have Caitlyn in this movie. He needed someone who could actually act and be professional. And his eyes widened when the blonde-haired boy stepped onto the stage without the copy of the film script. And action! The director called when Naruto stood in front of Caitlyn. Naruto turned to Caitlyn and took a deep breath. This shouldn't be too hard for him. He would play as Sean Ho-sun, the main character of the Ring of Fighters, and Caitlyn was going to play as Sarah Jones, the daughter of the host of Ring of Fighters, the worldwide underworld MMA and also the most powerful mafia boss in the world. When he saw the world MMA in that film script, Naruto's interest perked up and thought how right he was when he agreed to come here. However, what shocked him the most was the dialogues in the film script. "Oh, the parody," Kurama said inside of his mind skate, just like how she acted before. This time, Caitlyn was also in full professional actress mode. She lowered her face and tears began to flow from her eyes. If this girl was born at Elemental Nations, she could seriously be one of the top kunoichi in deception. "Sean! I beg you!" she sobbed. "Please, please bring my brother back." This part of the film was exactly like when he was about to leave for Sasuke rescue mission and Sakura come to him before the team could leave the village. "I couldn't do it, I couldn't stop them from taking my brother away." Her shoulders shaking. "The only person who can probably save Kevin now is you, Sean." She looked at him. "Only you?" And her eyes clearly reminded Naruto about the day he made that lifetime promise to Sakura. "Let's start," Naruto thought to himself before lowering his face, forcing a smile to his face before smiling at her. "Having a family, a brother to love, is great, isn't it?" he asked. The dialogues were a bit different, but everything was basically the same. "I know how much pain you're in right now, with your father murdered and your little brother taken away by them," he said. "I can understand, Sean." She sobbed even louder, using her hands to wipe away the tears. "Don't worry," Naruto said with his trademark grin. "I will bring him back." He gave her a thumb up. "It's a promise of a lifetime." "And cut!" The director shouted and stood up from his seat, clapping his hands loudly. "Brilliant, simply brilliant, hee, thanks." Naruto scratched the back of his head while smiling. "Wow, you surprised me, Naruto," Caitlyn said in amazement, wiping away the last of her tears. "You got a lot potential to become a great actor, you know." "Thanks," he grinned at her before walking down the stage. "You're a young man," the director announced loudly. "You acted like you're actually Sean, promising to save Sarah's little brother." That smile, it was so real, your words weren't even a force 1 inch. He grabbed Naruto's shoulders and shouted, "I need you in this." "Wow, no need to overreact like that, director," Caitlyn giggled. "Say, young man, do you know how martial arts?" he asked. "Yes, sir." Naruto nodded his head with a grin. "I'm also a big fan of MMA, sir." "Brilliant." Caitlyn was pulled toward Naruto by the director. "Now, Miss Sharp, now is the time for you two to get to know each other more, because in a few days when we start filming, you two will have a lot of scenes together." Caitlyn blushed brightly and Naruto only laughed nervously. "Further information will be sent to you soon, Yuzi. Can I call you Naruto?" Naruto nodded and the director walked away after patting Naruto on his shoulder. "So?" Naruto looked at Caitlyn, who instantly turned to her bag and pulled out a document. "This is the full film script," she told Naruto. "It is very uncomfortable to talk about some of the scenes inside, so you should just read this." Naruto nodded and took the script. "Congratulations, by the way, Naruto." "Yeah, thanks," he nodded. "Say, are you hungry? Crying hundreds of times probably took a lot from you, right?" The girl nodded. "I know a really good restaurant. Do you want to come? If you still have that hat of yours, then yeah, why not?" Caitlyn smiled and the two walked out of the stage. Chapter 19, 30 minutes 24 seconds. Naruto smiled and stopped the stopwatch he was holding by pushing the button at the side. "That's a new record, Aphrodite," he said brightly to the goddess of love who was lying on the ground, breathing hard with sweats covered her entire body. 2 days had passed since Aphrodite's first training. Naruto literally pushed her through hell with his extreme training method. Apparently he didn't think much about her words, which was, she was a lover not a fighter. He pushed Aphrodite to the limit of her godly strength and then more, doing feats that were impossible even for the highest caliber shinobi, even Naruto himself. Other than Mount Myaboku, the two of them took the Central Park on Olympus as their training ground, and Naruto made sure not to let anyone see Aphrodite train. He wanted to make this a surprise to the other members of his big family. Training her like this, Naruto could finally get a good look at what goddess like her capable of. Because Aphrodite never used her godly strength for anything extreme for more than 3,000 years, she became weak and seemingly physically weaker than the weaker goddesses. But overall, Aphrodite could handle at least 10 Gamakichi on her shoulder, like Artemis, who was only pissed off after being sat on by a gigantic toad after he fell down from above, getting no injure than pride injure. This feat was more or less normal. Aphrodite was a goddess, but in term of power she could be even more than the other Olympians because she was born from Uranus himself. From what he read, Atlas, a titan, could hold the entire sky on his shoulder, so 10 Gamakichi might not be Aphrodite's limit. Right now, he was working on Aphrodite's stamina. By having his brother created special bracelets and anklets that could contain endlessly amount of weights, to make a godly version of Rock Lee's method of training. Naruto put 4 of them on Aphrodite's body, and each was holding at least the amount of weight inside them that even in Sannin Moto, Naruto would have problem carry. For gods, this was an ultimate test of stamina. Naruto was wearing his forehead protector on his head and dared Aphrodite to touch it, even just slightly. "I will let you kiss me if you can touch my forehead protector." That was his promise to her, and to say the goddess was extremely fired up was a huge understatement. However, no matter how she tried, Naruto was impossible to catch, let alone touch his forehead protector. The goddess of love doubted even without the weights on her arms and legs, she would be able to make it before her stamina finally ran out. Naruto wasn't only fast, but he could also foresee all of her attempt to touch the metal plate he wore in front of his forehead, allowing the prince to toy with her, taking this matter very lightly. Of course, all knew Naruto would agree that he was a man of his words. He would only promise something like that to the goddess of lust after he was 100% sure she wouldn't be able to touch it, even slightly. "Please stay still." Aphrodite groaned out tiredly as she let Naruto pull her up to her feet. "Sorry, no can do, Aphrodite," he said. "This is also a part of your training, seriously?" the goddess asked. "But it is impossible," she cried. "Nothing is impossible, you will have to figure it out a way to touch this." Naruto pointed to his forehead protector and smiled. "And in order to figure it out a way, you will have to grow stronger. Now you have a goal to archive, I'm sure you will be able to do it. Sooner or later I will get that kiss," Aphrodite said strongly, pointing her hand at him. "You wait for it, oh ho, keep talking." Naruto smirked before helping Aphrodite remove the bracelets and anklets around her wrists and ankles. "So? What are we going to do now?" She then leaned forward and pressing her large breasts against his arms, holding back only by a sport bra. "You want to hang out with me for the rest of the day?" She tried to wrap her arms around his strong arm, but Naruto quickly removed himself from her, saying, "Not so fast, girl. We'll get to the next part of your training. Can we just do something else?" Aphrodite pouted. "Artemis is starting to adapt to my fighting style, which is not a good thing for you," Naruto said. It was the truth. In 2 days the goddess of the moon made huge progress in adapting to the way shinobi fight in a battle. After the embarrassingly humiliation, Artemis became sharper, more caution, and especially came up with a way to resolve his tricks every time he pulled one of them. While he was still sticking to Sannin Moto while training with her, with this speed of improving soon he would have to use the stronger form to handle Artemis, and Bijimoto would be overwhelmed, and each attack could seriously hurt Artemis if he is not careful. But still, everything would be different if he began to use Rasengan. "You're the one who pulled me into this," Aphrodite cried with her arms crossed underneath her chest. "Dud, it is good for you, you know," Naruto said blankly. "Alright, that's enough for today, you can leave now." "Thank you," Aphrodite cried out happily and wrapped her arms around his neck in a tight hug. Naruto was surprised at first, but he patted her on her back nonetheless. Even though the training was harsh and almost impossible for someone who didn't want to fight like Aphrodite, she did try her best in trainings and didn't try to run away and hide from him a single time. Aphrodite let go of Naruto and teleported away, returning to her duty as the goddess of love and beauty while her body was as sore as hell. But she couldn't help but admit that it was quite fun doing something like this. Line break. Naruto was walking toward the big house when he suddenly saw something interesting on the sky. Pegasus, a pure white Pegasus, was flying on the sky, with a camper sitting on its back. This wasn't the first time Naruto saw one of them, but no matter how many times he did, he could never stop the feeling of amazement swell up inside of him. "They look delicious, by the way," Kurama chuckled darkly inside of his head. "Knock it off, Kurama, they're not foods." Naruto chuckled and turned on his heel, making his way over to the stables. He could fly with the his Rakuta Sannin form, but Naruto wanted to find out what it would feel like to ride on a flying creature. Plus the sky was his father's domain. Maybe it was the time to try it out. The stables were made of wood that was white in color. It also had a mix of brick and stone, but everything looked a little bit old. There were a lot of hay and vegetables lying orderly over the place, brought to the place by the children of Demeter. He heard that some of the children of Aphrodite lent some help in taking care of the stables and Pegasi, so the place was a lot cleaner than most stable had seen. There were many Pegasi standing inside, and Naruto couldn't help but think how beautiful they are. The Pegasi got various kind of colors from white, brown to gray. Their wing folded up on their sides just like that of a bird, silently enjoying the jay and vegetables the campers brought to them. Hold. When Naruto was about to approach one of them, he heard a shout and the white Pegasus he saw before flew down and landed gratefully on the ground outside the stables, running for a few meters to slow down before finally stop. Good girl, the camper who was riding the Pegasus said while patting its neck gently. Silena Beauregard got down to the ground and gently led the white Pegasus into her stable, but stopped when she saw Naruto standing there looking at her with curiosity. Of course, having someone like the Prince of Olympus looking at her like that, being the daughter of love, she couldn't help but blush a little. Hey Silena, Naruto was the one who broke the silence between them by smiling at Silena, the head counselor of Cabin 10. Nice ride, thank you, Silena smiled. Naruto smiled at her. Silena Beauregard, as far as he knew, was hailed at Camp Half-Blood's hottest girl. Naruto would be blind if he couldn't see why she earned that title. Silena was one of the only girl among Cabin 10 inherited the curves of Aphrodite's true appearance. She looked like a carbon copy of her mother, with the only exception for her black-haired and brown eyes. Silena must be one of the most beautiful girl he had ever seen in his life. However, no sooner than he thought that, the color of her hair and eyes changed, become blonde and blue like her mother. With another blink everything turned back to normal. Could you stop doing that? Naruto asked, slightly amused by this kind of ability. That changed the color power. Oh, sorry. Silena gasped lightly. Every demigod has ADHD, but I was also blessed with one of my mother's powers as well. It is the power to change my physical appearance as will, but like with ADHD, I can't control it, she said apologetically. The mist will make the mortal and demigod see only one color, but because you're a clear-sighted mortal, I will see your hair and eyes change rapidly. Silena nodded. Right now she had black hair and dark purple eyes, and it seemed to stay that way. So, what brought the Prince of Olympus to this dirty stable? Silena asked, walking past him and led the white Pegasus into her stable. I was thinking about testing my luck with flying, he said, following Silena inside. I heard that you're an expert rider, right? Silena was the one in charge of teaching new campers like Percy how to ride a Pegasus properly. She was by far the best Pegasus rider in the camp. Everyone said the same thing. Silena smiled. But I think it is because I can understand them better than anyone, that's all, she smiled. If you want, I can show you a few tricks. Really? I don't want to bother you. He trailed off, but Silena already grabbed his hand and pulled him to the back of the stable. I think he will suit you. Naruto and Silena stood in front of yet another beautiful white Pegasus, but this one was a little bigger than the one Silena rode on. The creature looked at Naruto for a moment with its big black eyes before nudging him gently with its head. Oh. Naruto smiled and put his hand on the animal's head, patting the Pegasus gently. Hey buddy, I think he likes you, Silena said and put her hand on the horse's neck, running her hand on the beautiful white horsehair. What's his name? The prince asked, smiling at the beast. Peach. Naruto turned to look at Silena with an amused smile. What? He looked like a peach when he was younger. Oh yeah. Naruto chuckled lightly before letting Silena opening the stable's gate, letting Naruto guide the Pegasus out. Almost instantly, the horse neighed loudly, raising its front hoof and flapping its wings, flapping it wildly. This of course shocked Naruto a little as he stepped back in caution. Getting kicked in the face by a Pegasus would be the last thing he would want right now. Hold. Silena stepped up and raised both of her arms, saying loudly to the winged horse. Easy boy, easy, she said comfortingly. Surprisingly, she calmed the overreacting horse down. The white Pegasus acted like a puppy dog under the hand of Aphrodite's beautiful daughter. What the hell just happened? Naruto asked, cautiously approaching the horse. I forgot to tell you that Peach is quite wilder than the other, and he doesn't like stranger, Silena said. I will pick another one for you. She started to guide Peach back to his stable, but Naruto stopped her. No, I want this one, he said firmly with a grin. Are you sure? Silena asked. Yeah, bring it on, Peach, Naruto said, challenging to the horse, and walked outside with Silena. Peach followed behind her closely. The road to get to Peach's back was a little harder than Naruto thought, as the horse didn't intend to stay still for him to climb onto. Whenever he was about to get on his back, Peach turned and shook his body, making Naruto fell down to the ground on his butt. This of course made Silena laugh. 10 minutes later, Naruto finally got on the beautiful white Pegasus back, with his legs put on the spots in front of Peach's wings. You can hold on him here. Silena pointed to the horse's neck. Don't worry about it, girl. Naruto winked and gave her a thumb up. Peach might be a wild horse, but by the time he was able to get on his back, with his chakra trick he would never fall down. Because this is your first ride, you want me to help you out? Silena asked hopefully. Sure, why not? He smiled at her and offered Silena his hand, which the girl took it and let Naruto pull her onto Peach's back, right behind him. Naruto blushed a little at the feeling of her ample breasts pressed against his back, as Silena wrapped her arms around his waist and moved closer to him. Talking with her so casually and normal like that, Naruto almost forgot that this young lady was the daughter of Aphrodite. To say Naruto was surprised to see a child of the love goddess wasn't an airhead was an understatement. Silena seemed very nice and kind, very different from her siblings. She wore clothes stylishly, but unlike her sisters she didn't have the 24 hours makeups on her face. Okay, let's start, shall we? Silena spoke up cheerily, and before Naruto could say anything, she nudged Peach's side gently. The Pegasus neighed loudly, raising both of his front hoofs up and shot forward, running on the ground for a few seconds before spreading his wings and took off. Holy! Naruto cried out excitedly. This is amazing! He shouted out. Come on, buddy, get higher! He said to the horse, and it only did just that. Looking around, Naruto couldn't help but feel amazed by the amazing view of the north shore of Long Island. While it might not be able to compare to Konoha or Mount Myaboku, it was still a sight to behold. Looking down, Naruto smiled when he saw Camp Half-Blood became smaller and smaller, with campers as small as ants doing activities below. This was by far the first time Naruto went on such a flight like this. Closing his eyes, Naruto let the wind strongly hit his face, yet he didn't feel uncomfortable by it at all. Sky was also his father's domain, so maybe it was the reason why he was feeling so refreshed, so calm like this. You handle him quite well, Silena shouted so he could hear her voice. You're a natural rider, you know. Sky is my father domain, so I guess flying is only natural to me, he told her, smiling. Silena couldn't help but smile as well. This was the first time she hung around with the Prince of Olympus, but she already really liked the way he interacted with everyone. Naruto was kind, caring, full of passion. He cared for her and her siblings while no one did, looking past the bad reputations of being the children of the goddess Aphrodite, and did everything he could in his power to help them improve, so that they could be respected like any other demigods. Silena couldn't help but admit that she was starting to have some feeling for this young man, who was hailed as the Prince of Olympus. It was so strange. Only after a small amount of time getting to know Naruto, Silena started to like him more than she should. He's mine, don't touch him suddenly. Her mother's words returned to her, and Silena's eyes became a little saddened by this. Of course, someday, sooner or later, he would become a god. Seriously, relationship with other women other than goddesses was strictly forbidden by the ancient laws. So the chance for her or any mortal girls who taken the interest in Naruto was very slim, if not wanted to say non-existent. She should have seen it coming when her mother told her to tell the girl about her plan for the prince. It would only hurt those who fall for him that wasn't immortal. Not that she thought Naruto would be like his father, and had tons of demigods after becoming a god himself, but being the daughter of love, she knew love was a very powerful thing. No one could control when they would feel in love. Becoming a god meant Naruto would get all the time in the world, and who knew, this decade or the decade after, he would fall in love with a beautiful mortal woman and had his first demigod. Silena closed her eyes and rested her head against his back. For now, let's just stay like this, and she should also be careful with her own feeling. Hey, Silena, Naruto called out when Peach did a break and started to return to the camp. Thank you. It's my pleasure and satisfying, Lord Naruto, the Prince of Olympus, with the best of my ability, Silena said before slapping playfully on his back when the blonde jerked his back. Relax, I was just kidding, haha, very funny, Naruto chuckled. Okay, lower down, Peach, he told the Pegasus, and Peach lowered down a little. However, right at that moment, Naruto's instinct alerted him, but he didn't have any times to react. All he saw was a blur of silver, an arrow shot from the forest below, and the next moment, Peach neighed painfully when the arrow pierced through his right wing. Naruto widened his eyes in shock when the winged horse's body bucked powerfully. Naruto with his chakra could stick to his body no problem, but unfortunately the buck sent Silena off his back into the air. No! Naruto screamed when he saw the girl fell down to the ground hopelessly with her eyes wide in shock. Peach was also falling, and Naruto knew he only got less than 5 seconds to save both of them. Naruto pulled out a kunai in a flash and threw it to Silena. He didn't aim her but the space beside the falling girl. Naruto then disappeared in a flash of yellow, bringing Peach with him to the inside of cabin 2. Peach crashed into the bed but quickly stood up, folding one of his wings while the injured one was still spreading. Sorry mom, he didn't know if his mother liked having horse inside her cabin or not, but now wasn't the time for it. Naruto disappeared again in a flash of yellow. This time he reappeared next to Silena and grabbed her, wrapping his arms around her body protectively, shielding her from the tree they were falling onto before quickly teleported into his mother's cabin at camp. Naruto fell down to the ground hard with Silena, perfectly okay in his arms. Blowing leaves out of his mouth, the blonde immediately sat up and looked at Silena, checking her to see if there was any injuries. You okay, Silena? The girl only nodded her head, still couldn't believe what just happened. Naruto sighed in relief and let the girl rest it against the wall, letting her take her time gathering herself together before walking to Peach. Hey, it alright, Naruto said to the Pegasus before grabbing the arrow from the underneath. Blood tainted the pure white color of his wing. I have to pull this out, he told the horse and pulled the arrow out instantly. Peach neighed loudly in pain, but Naruto quickly put his right hand on the wound, closing his eyes, and in just a matter of seconds, the white Pegasus wing healed up. You're fine now. Naruto smiled to the winged horse and saw Silena walking toward him with a rather pale face from the near-death experience. What happened, Naruto? Silena asked nervously. Someone attacked us, Naruto said simply, looking at the silver arrow in his hand. Is that Lady Artemis' arrow? Silena gasped in shock. There was only one group used silver arrow, and that was Artemis and her huntresses. Yes, this is Artemis' arrow, Naruto nodded. But this is also the same arrow she shot to my shoulder the same day Percy and his group left for the quest. Someone picked it up after I went to bid them a good luck. He remembered letting the arrow on the table, but when he returned it had disappeared. Artemis was very careful. If he did not want to say rather skimp with her special arrows, she always gathered them back after archery training, so he had thought there was some magic placed on them so the arrows would return to her quiver, to help her do the gathering faster. There was only one person come to Naruto's mind. The Lightning Thief Chapter 20. Oi Caitlyn! Naruto shouted with his arm raised on the air, trying to catch up to the beautiful blonde while pushing through the crowd of students in the hallway. Right after Naruto got to school, he went to find her. The both of them didn't have the same class today since Naruto only had classes in the afternoon on Monday. Oh hey Naruto! Caitlyn turned around and saw her friend, smiling brightly to him. Good afternoon, how are you today? I'm good. Naruto grinned. This morning, he put Aphrodite's children through hell, forcing them to climb the magma wall without any personal protective equipment. The girl basically cried out in tears when a small part their pretty hair was burned, and the boy more or less tried to run away every time they accidentally touched the lava. Aphrodite was absolutely horrified by this, and she fainted right on the spot. You seem to be in the good mood, Caitlyn said in amusement. What happened? Nothing much, I played with a bunch of kids this morning. Naruto grinned. Their mother fainted when I taught them how to climb a wall. No sooner than he said that, Caitlyn thrust her elbow into his rib. Ouch, what? Teaching kids doing dangerous things like that, how irresponsible are you? She asked in disbelief. Anyway, Naruto reached for his backpack and took out the Ring of Fighters film script. Here you go, I'm done with this. Naruto gave it back to Caitlyn, who then looked at him in disbelief. Seriously? Caitlyn gasped in shock. You only need 1 day to memorize this? It took me a whole month to do so. Well, what do you expect from a Harvard student? Naruto asked, puffing his chest in pride while in truth, he created multi-copies of this film script and created a lot of clones to speed up the memorizing process, so it only took him a few hours to memorize the entire film script. He made sure to destroy the copies though. I guess, Caitlyn frowned and put the script into her back. Caitlyn, how should I put this? Naruto said uncomfortably while scratching his cheek, which became a little red due to embarrassment. I found a scene in that script when the both of us, we both, doing that, Caitlyn nodded, her cheeks dusted pink. Sacrifice for art, I guess. I thought Ring of Fighter is all about fighting, Naruto reasoned. I had to admit though, some scene is pretty badass, but do we have to that? He scratched the back of his head while looking away. Like, we kiss and pretend to make love to each other. He nearly slipped, but chose the better words in this situation. Yes, absolutely. Caitlyn pointed out. This is also my first time, so I will have to try my best. Caitlyn said confidently, her voice full of determination before beginning to panic. But I don't have any experience in this kind of thing. Hey, relax, me too, you know. Naruto told her. At least, we only need to pretend, not do the real thing. Not the kissing though. Caitlyn groaned. Enough with that. Naruto understood Caitlyn's mood, immediately changed the topic. Let's find my talkative self-proclaimed friend and get to the next class, okay? The blonde nodded her head and followed Naruto with her cheeks pink, a soft smile on her face. Line break. Your father is here, Miss Sharp. Caitlyn dropped the fork she was holding right after she heard her bodyguard, John, said that after receiving a phone call. Naruto and Daniel, who was enjoying their lunch next to her, looked at their friend in surprise. Naruto could feel the sudden change in Caitlyn's emotion at that moment. Excuse me? The blonde asked in surprise. My father? Here? Yes. John nodded his head. And he is waiting for you at Four Seasons Hotel. Isn't that one of the best hotels here at Boston? Naruto asked, looking at Daniel, who nodded his head rapidly. He knew that Caitlyn family was rich, if not wanted to say super rich, but to book a room at one of the fanciest hotels at this city just to meet her was out of his imagination. Though, he was in no place to judge her family, since his parent was the king and queen of the gods, who, as far as he knew, sat on the throne made of pure gold. Okay, tell him I will be there right away. Caitlyn nodded her head to John and stood up, looking at Naruto and Daniel. Sorry guys, but I don't think I can finish school with you today. I need to go now, okay Kate? Naruto nodded his head. Caitlyn nodded her head to him before walking away with a frown, with John following closely behind her. What is that all about? Naruto asked, and Daniel only shrugged his shoulder. You know anything about Caitlyn's father? The sudden change of Caitlyn's emotions probably because of her father, so Naruto was very interested to find out why. Well, as far as I know, Mr. Sharp is a very strict businessman who only aims for success, and of course he taught his children to do so too. Daniel said, he started his company from the big zero and became one of the richest men in the world with it. No one know how he was able to do that though. Rival companies tried to expose his past and hoped to find dirty businesses, however. Like any attempts to dethrone him before, they found nothing. You know a lot, don't you? Naruto asked in amusement. I don't know Naruto. Daniel said mockingly. There is something called internet. I.N.T.E.R.R.N.E.T, and all you need to do is Google everything. It's very hard to understand. And he earned a hard slap at the back of his head. Caitlyn climbed into the car waiting for her outside and let John took her to the hotel. Her father, Charles Sharp, was here to see her. It had been 6 months since their last meeting, and it was clear to Caitlyn that the reason he was here wasn't going to be a good thing. When she decided to step into the professional world of entertainment, her father was the one who highly against it, saying that she should stay at home and join his company as a businesswoman. If not for her brother, Carlos, who then started to show the qualities and a great mind for business of a great leader to their father, her father would never allow her to do whatever she wants like this. But Caitlyn knew that he would never change his mind. Oh dear, Caitlyn muttered when she saw the ones that were standing outside of the Four Seasons Hotel. Caitlyn arrived at the hotel 10 minutes later, and as soon as she stepped out of the car, almost instantly she was surrounded by a crowd of reporters who threw question after question to her. She didn't like reporters. They bothered her all the times, but it wasn't like she could do anything with it. John immediately came to the rescue by pushing through the reporters, making a line for Caitlyn to walk through them. Phew, thanks John, Caitlyn said as soon as the hotel's door was close behind her. John nodded his head. As soon as Caitlyn turned back to the hotel, she was immediately assaulted by a handsome man in his mid-20s, with sandy blonde hair and blue eyes, an athletic build. The girl didn't even have time to squeal out in shock when her face was slammed into his chest, his arms wrapped around her in a bear hug. Carlos! She immediately recognized her older brother as she was swung around by him. My dear sister, Carlos said with laughter. It's so good to see you again. Caitlyn couldn't help but giggle as well. Hey there, brother. The younger blonde returned to her, looking at her older brother with a soft smile on her face. You came with father as well? Of course, this is a great opportunity for our family to reunite, even if it will be just for a short amount of time, Carlos said as they stepped into the elevator. Hard? Caitlyn asked. Very, the man said as he ran his hand through his hair. You're lucky, Caitlyn. You have no idea how father worked my ass lately, he said. I read the news, the girl said. Something about father bought yet another corporation, right? Yeah. The elevator stopped at the 28th floor and the door was opened for the Sharp sibling, as they stepped out and walked toward the last room of the hallway. He's waiting for you inside, Carlos said, opening the door for his sister. I will let you two alone for now. Caitlyn nodded her head and walked in. Charles Sharp was a man in his middle age, yet still managed to keep his youthful appearance. He was tall, with short yellow hair and sharp blue eyes, a calm and collected expression on his face as he stood in front of the window of the room and looked at the city outside. He was wearing a black business suit, hands in his pocket. Good afternoon, father. Caitlyn took off her bag and greeted her father politely. The man turned around and looked at his daughter. A small smile made it to his face. Hello, Caitlyn, he said, his arms opened a little. You don't want to give your father a hug? He asked, making Caitlyn grin broadly and ran to her father, wrapping his arms around his waist in a tight hug. I miss you, father, she said as Charles wrapped his arms around his daughter and planted a soft kiss on the top of her head. Me too, Caitlyn. The man smiled and let go of her. How are you, my daughter? I'm fine, what about you? He nodded his head. The two sat down on the couch with Caitlyn opposite from her father. Even though they had a heartwarming greeting, Caitlyn couldn't help but feel a little nervous about this. Why are you here, father? Caitlyn was the one who broke the silence between them. I will head straight to the point, Caitlyn. I think it's time for you to stop playing around and grow up, he said calmly, looking at Caitlyn with an unchanging expression. Excuse me? Caitlyn asked. Playing around? A tick mark appeared on her forehead. Yes, Caitlyn, Charles nodded his head. The university sent me your results certificate. I study hard, Caitlyn muttered. She knew that her results certificate was always one of the best. What is your point? My point is, you're wasting your talent in useless performance on stage and on studio, Mr. Sharp said seriously. Unlike you, your brother, this is what I want to do, father. Caitlyn cut him off, saying with the same serious tone. I don't care what Carlos did to the Sharp Corporation, but all I care about now is giving my best on the stage. I don't think so. Mr. Sharp shook his head. You see the people down there? They're holding you back, Caitlyn. He took out the leaflet of the Ring of Fighter, putting it on the table in front of them. Look at this, you're nothing but a show girl to these people, Caitlyn. Sharp Group aims to become the top of the world, and yet my daughter is downgrade herself to the level of an entertainer. What will your mother? Mother is not here, Caitlyn said with her voice a little louder than usual. It was always the painful topic to her. I got nothing to say to you, father. I made up my mind when I was even younger than this. Caitlyn stood up from her seat, trying to be calm. I thank you for taking your time with me. See you later, father. She bowed her head and walked out of the room, slamming the door shut behind her. Charles Sharp sighed. He knew that he shouldn't bring Caitlyn's mother into this. But sooner or later, his daughter would accept that she could be better than that. Leaning back against the couch, Charles took out a newspaper and his cell phone from his back. Yes, I want you to find this person for me, he said into the phone. Yes, all right, thank you. He closed the line and looked at the newspaper with an unreadable expression on his face. Chapter 21. Here you go, Naruto, Hephaestus said and took the sword out of the bucket of water and put it on the table in front of Naruto. Thank bro. Naruto grinned and bumped his fist with his favorite older brother, and waited till the newly made sword to cool down before taking it into his hands. By the way, sorry for disturbing you, nothing, this is just some trap. Hephaestus shook his head. He was working on some very small spiders that Athena and her children wouldn't like to see. His brother was definitely the best blacksmith in the world, or any worlds out there. The sword in his hand, made in just a few minutes, was a celestial bronze katana, with ornate bronze guard. The guard was an oval, and the tsukito seemed to be braided from white and black material. The blade also featured several intricate ornaments, and looked to be able to cut through steel. Naruto grabbed the hilt and made a swing. The sword was very balanced in his hand. You don't seem like someone who used sword as a weapon to me, Naruto, Hephaestus said. He made countless amounts of superpower weapons in his life, and developed a certain eyes to see which the best weapon was for his client. To him, Naruto was someone who preferred using his fist than a weapon, not that he was going to need them since Naruto's physical strength alone could even match a god in a fight, not to mention his more than destructive powers, called ninjutsu. This is not for me, Naruto said, grinning, and took the scabbard on the table, which was black and made of traditional lacquered wood. This is for Aphrodite. I heard that you're training her, Hephaestus said, nodding his head. After all, Aphrodite's palace was right next to him, so it wasn't hard to see the goddess of love. His former wife came back to house every day with Naruto, with plenty bruises on her body, looking absolutely tired. Damn! Naruto looked at his brother. Keep it a secret, okay? I want to surprise the other, especially our more violent brother. Some would say that it's particularly useless trying to do something like that. Hephaestus said blankly, returning to his work, strongly hammering the uncompleted double-edged sword on the anvil with his hammer. You will be surprised, bro. Naruto smiled, walking out of his brother's workplace. She might not be a born warrior, but she has the will and the determination to overcome everything, to prove everyone that she can. To me, all of that is enough. Naruto exited the hot palace of his older brother and walked to Aphrodite's palace with the sword in his hand, knocking on the door for a few times before calling for her loudly. Aphrodite, time to training, he shouted. Just a minute, Naruto. Aphrodite shouted back, making Naruto look at the door curiously. Normally, if she didn't want to train that day, she would try to pretend to be not inside her palace, or faking a very tired voice. However, the way she replied today was kind of new to him. So Naruto focused some of his chakra into his ear to enchant his hearing. Where could it possibly be? He heard Aphrodite muttered and he could feel that she was very worried. Aphrodite, is everything okay in there? He heard the sound of finger clicking and the door automatically opened for Naruto. Shrugging his shoulders, Naruto walked into Aphrodite's palace. This wasn't the first time Naruto had the pleasure of walking into Aphrodite's palace. At first, he thought her house was like a bigger, fancier version of Cabin 10, a massive Barbie doll house which everything inside was pink and girlish. However, he was very surprised to find out that most of the color inside was blue and light purple. Like any Olympian's gods and goddesses, her palace was nothing but fancy and elegant. There was a queen-size bed at the other side of the room with white bed sheet and incredible soft pillow. God didn't need to sleep much, so Naruto knew exactly what that bed used for, but tried not to think about it. Beside the bed was Aphrodite's makeup table, featured various kind of makeup equipment like lipstick, makeup powder, perfume, eyeliner. Another room of her palace was the place she put all the kind of the clothes she found beautiful in the world. There were thousands or even millions of them inside. It was the biggest collection in the world, or any worlds out there. There was also a lot more rooms, but Naruto tried not to dig deeper into it. Her palace also smelt exactly like her, making Naruto wonder just how many perfume bottles she used to make the place got the smell like that. Naruto looked at Aphrodite, who was running back and forth inside of her room with a worried expression on her face, like she was looking for something. What wrong, Aphrodite? Naruto asked, crossing his arms across his chest. I lost one of my scarves. Aphrodite whined, her head perked up from underneath the bed. Excuse me? But aren't we in the middle of summer? What do you need the scarf for? Naruto asked, confused. I made sure to take care of my collection every morning. This morning I lost one of my scarf. Aphrodite stood up. It's not here, someone must stole it. She then came to the conclusion. Come on, you got at least 1,000 scarves, right? Naruto checked the clock. We're late for training, can you at least wait? That scarf is a special one, it is very dangerous. Naruto's eyes widened slightly at that. It has the power to make others fall in love with the one who wear it. Aphrodite pointed out. Like your girdle, right? Naruto asked, glancing at the belt she hanged on top of her bed. It was Aphrodite's symbol of power. The object gave her the power to seduce any man she wanted. Even Naruto didn't know if he was able to resist her if she decided to wear it. Yes, but at a lesser degree. Aphrodite nodded. It only affects mortal or half-mortal. But aren't gods forbidden to enter others' palace without their permission? Aphrodite looked a little uncomfortable and Naruto immediately knew the answer for his question. Forget what I asked. Naruto added. We've to find it. If that thing fall into mortals' hands, there will only be trouble. Aphrodite said. Someone must stole it. But who? Naruto looked around. This was the godly world he was talking about. The residents of this world could randomly appear at one place and then disappear without a trace. Aphrodite then went into a state of thinking, with her finger put on her bottom lips. Naruto also crossed his arms across his chest, trying to think about who could be stupid enough to steal such a dangerous artifact from the goddess of love's possession and also for what reason he really needed it. Someone who's stupid enough and seriously needed some loving from beautiful women but unable to do so after a curse was placed on him. After his lover broke up with him, and did it as a punishment for threatening her. Then, at once, they shouted, Aries. You cursed him, didn't you? Naruto asked, recalling what Aphrodite told him a few days ago. Apparently, the goddess of love was angry at the slap and threat Aries gave her, so right after they broke up, Aphrodite placed a love curse on him, making sure that no women would fall in love with the god of war. It was one of the ultimate curses for someone who couldn't keep it in their pants, and couldn't find any love from mortal. With that love curse. Yes, the ultimate cockblock curse. Aphrodite laughed sheepishly. I placed it on him, and I'm the only one who can lift it. And she didn't intend to lift it at all, at least in a few millions years. Threaten Aphrodite with her children's safety was the last straw for a loving mother like her. And now he stole that scarf so that he would be able to sleep with mortal. Naruto growled, very funny. We have to find him. Aphrodite scolded. This time, I will make sure to place some of my worst love curse for stealing from me. Let's go. Naruto motioned his head to the door. I know just the one who can find him for us. Line break. Anti-Hestia. Naruto poked his head into the throne room. His hands was holding the massive door open with Aphrodite following behind him. The goddess of love had changed her clothes and was now wearing a frilled black shirt, denim jacket, and a rather short skirt, with high-collar Converse sneakers. Overall, she looked like your everyday teenager, only 1,000 times more beautiful and attractive. The goddess they were looking for was sitting at her usual spot beside the main hearth of Olympus, poking the fire with a long stick. Good morning, Naruto, Aphrodite. Hestia looked at them and smiled softly. Going out today? You can say that. Aphrodite nodded her head rapidly. Don't believe her, Naruto said, glaring at Aphrodite, who then winked at him cutely. Auntie, can you help me? I have a favor to. He then saw the smile on her face. You already know, aren't you? How can you do that anyway, Hestia? Aphrodite asked in disbelief. She too was rather curious of the reason why the oldest child of Kronos was able to know everything. That is a secret. Hestia smiled secretly at them. So Naruto, Aphrodite, you two want to find Aries, am I right? Yes, to retrieve Aphrodite's scarf. Naruto nodded his head. Do you know where he is? The goddess of love asked. Maybe. Both Naruto and Aphrodite face-palmed at the kind goddess' answer. Very funny, auntie. Naruto chuckled sarcastically. Hey, what kind of joke is that? Aphrodite whined. Sorry. Hestia giggled playfully before turning back to the hearth. Sorry, Naruto, but the ancient laws forbid me from revealing gods and goddess with the higher class than me, aka the Olympians. Naruto groaned. But I think it's time you lend the young some help. His eyes widened at her announcement. What do you mean? Aphrodite asked questionably, but she suddenly found Naruto's hand on her shoulder. Thank you, auntie. I will treat you with ramen later. Naruto grinned broadly and disappeared in a flash of yellow, bringing Aphrodite with him. Line break, water park. The main gate was padlocked and topped with barbed wire. Inside, huge dry water slides and tubes and pipes curled everywhere, leading to empty pools. Old tickets and advertisements fluttered around the asphalt. With night coming on, the place looked sad and creepy. Outside of the gate stood 3 teenagers. They were none other than Percy Jackson, Annabeth Chase, Grover Underwood, the 3 who went on the quest to find the lightning thief. Currently, they're having a conversation of old gossip. If Aries brings his girlfriend here for a date, Percy said, staring up at the barbed wire, I'd hate to see what she looks like. Percy, Annabeth warned with a dangerous tone. Be more respectful. Why? I thought you hated Aries. Percy asked. He's still a god. And his girlfriend is very temperamental. You don't want to insult her looks. Grover added. Who is she? Echidna? Percy asked, winced. No, Aphrodite. Grover said, a little dreamily. Goddess of love. I thought she was married to somebody. I said. Hephaestus. Yeah, but I heard from Cabin 10 that after Naruto showed up, Lady Aphrodite divorced with his brother and broke up with the other one. Annabeth nodded her head before going deep in thought. But he said he brought his girlfriend here. If it is not Lady Aphrodite, then, did someone just mention about me? Naruto and Aphrodite appeared in a flash of yellow right beside the group of teenager. Percy and Grover's mouth, especially Grover's, dropped down to the ground in shock with their eyes wide in shock at the presence of the goddess of beauty. Naruto didn't blame them at all, especially when they were looking at the most beautiful woman in their opinion. Only 10 times greater than normal. Grover even had drool running down the corner of his mouth, typical satyr. Annabeth was stunned by this. Naruto, why are you here? She then turned to Aphrodite and bowed. Greeting, Lady Aphrodite. She greeted respectfully, and nudged the boys out of their dazed state to do the same like her. Hey boys, girl. She then winced. Ew, you stink. She then got an idea. Here, lets me help. And clicked her finger. In a flash, all the dirtiness and the stinky smell disappeared from their body. Annabeth's tangled blonde hair strengthened instantly, and looked well taken care of. All three got their clothes changed, with Annabeth to a more girlish version of the clothes she was wearing, with a rather short pink skirt. I thought you're forbidden to help them in their quest? Naruto asked, looking at the love goddess. Oh sure, but I'm the goddess of beauty. It is my duty to make everything pretty. Aphrodite giggled. So of course, fixing these three fell into my duty. That's everything I could help them. Alright then, Naruto nodded with a smile before turning at her. By the way, never try that power on me. I don't want to be dressed up by you. Oh, don't worry, honey. You're already perfect with your look. She giggled. Whoa, Percy said in amazement, looking at his new clothes. Thanks, Lady Aphrodite. Grover nodded, his head rapidly. It's my pleasure, boys, the love goddess said. Annabeth was looking rather uncomfortable with the skirt she was wearing. Man, you're a lot friendlier than Aries, Percy commented, and immediately earned the two new arrivals' attention. Wait a minute, you three met Aries? Naruto asked in surprise. When? Just a few minutes ago. We're running a task for him, Annabeth said. He was on a date with his girlfriend, but for some reason he left, but forgot his shield in there, so he sent us to retrieve it back for him. She then looked at Aphrodite. I thought he was talking about you, Lady Aphrodite. Oh honey, we broke up long ago. Aphrodite waved her hand dismissively. I'm more interested in this boy. She leaned against Naruto, making him sigh. But why are you two here? Percy asked. Aphrodite's magical scarf was stolen, and we thought Aries was the one who stole it, Naruto explained. So, you three come in there and get the shield? All three nodded. Good, continue your work. Meet me when you come out. He came over to the barbed wires and tore them apart, making a way to the quest. All right. Annabeth nodded and they walked in. Aren't you going to help them? Aphrodite asked curiously. No, those three can take care of themselves. Consider the fact that they're still alive after leaving camp, Naruto said. Let them take the shield for Aries. When he comes to take it back, we'll be there waiting for him, Naruto said with an evil smirk. Oh, I got it. Aphrodite giggled. Line break. Good, now bring your other fist to the left side of my face, Naruto said as he was standing in front of Aphrodite, holding her wrist, teaching her a few simple taijutsu moves in slow motion while waiting for the three to return. You think this is enough to beat Artemis? The goddess of beauty asked. You will have to try harder, Naruto said. Your physical strength is greater than her as well as your power. But Artemis is very skilled and experienced. She will get you on the ground even before you realize it, he explained. So, as my practitioner, you're allowed to cheat. Excuse me? You're a student of a shinobi. Shinobi don't play fair. Naruto made a sweat movement with his legs, bringing her down to the ground, but used his hand on her wrist to hold her, keeping Aphrodite a few inches from the ground before pulling her up. I will see if I can. He then looked up. Oh, they are returning. Sure enough, looking up they saw the quest walking at them. Once again, they looked like a mess. Percy was holding a bronze shield, probably Ares' shield. What happened? Aphrodite asked, clicking her finger and pulled a little beauty charm, fixing the three immediately. He tricked us, Percy growled. Lord Hephaestus set up traps and camera in there, Annabeth stated. I think it is the reason why Ares had to leave. Ah yes, Hephaestus TV. Aphrodite nodded, making Naruto to look at her. What? I got a show on there too, you know. We also found your scarf, Lady Aphrodite, Annabeth said and pulled out a pink scarf, having an indescribable perfume, like rose or mountain laurel. So, Ares was the one who stole it after all. Oh my, thank you. Aphrodite looked very pleased and took it from Annabeth, waving her hand up and down, casting some magic before wrapping it around her neck. But we still need to talk to Ares. I got some curses to place on him, she growled. Can I have that, Percy? The son of Poseidon nodded and gave Naruto the shield. It was pretty heavy and large, probably to fit someone at the size of Ares. Let's go. They three led Naruto to a chrome dinner. Ares was waiting for them the quest to return with his shield at the dinner's parking lot. He could see the god of war sitting inside the restaurant looking very impatient. Naruto stepped ahead. About damn. When he heard footstep, Ares turned around and growled, but his eyes widened when he suddenly saw Naruto walking at him with the shield in his hand. You greeting, fella! Naruto shouted and threw the shield right into Ares' face, so fast that the god of war couldn't see it coming and fell off his bike. Damn, now I feel like I'm Captain America. He grinned and caught the shield, giving it to Percy. Naruto then pulled the sword in his hand out of its scabbard, walking toward Aries, who holding his nose in pain. Naruto probably broke it, and now ichor was flowing down his face. He then put the blade at the side of his neck, looking down at Aries and grinned. Did Mom teach you that stealing is bad? Naruto asked. No offense, Mom, he added, looking at the sky and heard it rumbled. Why are you here? Aries asked through a broken nose. My student was in trouble, so of course I lent her a hand. Naruto then looked at Aphrodite. Speaking of whom, Aphrodite? He called for the love goddess, who stepped forward and stomped her foot on Aries' stomach. That is for stealing my scarf, asshole! Aphrodite shouted angrily. With the training Naruto gave her, the force Aphrodite was using was literally too much for the war god to handle. I will kill you if you try to steal my artifact from me again, got that? Dude, I will listen to her, Naruto said in amusement, and Aries nodded his head rapidly. Now out of punishment I will hex you with a worse curse than the one you already have. Aphrodite then said coldly and casted a few curses on Aries, much to his shock. Looking at the war god right now, Naruto would rather not know about which were the curses Aphrodite was using, because Aries' face suddenly got ugly, even more ugly than their brother. Line break. I will hate to be the one who is at the receiving end of your wrath, Aphrodite, Naruto said as he and Aphrodite sat on top of a hill, looking at the beautiful sunset in front of them. Naruto couldn't help but wonder what it would feel like to be the one who drove the sun all day like Apollo. The three already continued their quest after saying goodbye to him and Aphrodite. He deserved it, the love goddess sitting next to him said. Well, you're right. Naruto then looked at the sword lying on the ground next to him. He picked it up and gave it to the love goddess. Here, take it, what? Aphrodite stuttered. To fight Artemis you will need a weapon, Naruto smiled. So I asked Hephaestus to make you one, in my style. The love goddess took the katana and looked at it in shock. Wow! Aphrodite said in amazement, pulling the sword out a little. This is probably the first sword in my life. What is it called? I haven't thought about a name for it yet, so you chose. Naruto grinned. Vinculum. The same words written in ancient Greek then appeared on the end of the blade. Bond. Naruto nodded and leaned back. Thank you, Naruto. Aphrodite whispered softly, looking at him. For doing so much for me, nah, you deserve it. The blonde smiled. Little did he know that he was being photographed. Chapter 22. You're freaking out of your mind. Artemis cried out into Naruto's face, so shocked that she dropped the bottle of nectar she was holding down to the ground and stood up from her seat. I'm very serious, Artemis. Naruto said surely. As usual, Artemis came to him every afternoon to have a spar with him, and the battle between goddess and human shinobi ended a few minutes ago, once again with Naruto the one who came out unscratched and won the match. However, Naruto was able to see a lot of improvement in the way his half-sister. The more he fought with Artemis, the better she got in each battle. Her punches were harder, her kicks were faster, and she was slowly getting used to his unpredictable fighting style. Sooner or later he would need to put these friendly spars into a whole new level. I want to see God's divine form. Naruto repeated his words once more times for Artemis, this time a little louder so he could hear him more clearly. He had been wondering that ever since he knew godly beings like Artemis got a true form, in which all of their essences were in one place. Looking upon a god in this state would incinerate and destroy any mortal onlooker. You're out of your mind, aren't you? Artemis asked, her voice lowered and less shocked than before. She knew that this boy loved to play prank and joke around, but this time there was no playfulness in his voice, meaning that he was very serious about what he just said. Did Athena tell you about the consequence of looking at our divine form? Athena was in charge of teaching Naruto the basic information about the gods, so she was very sure her sister would never miss something so important like that. Relax, I got a way to see that form without dying right away, Naruto said. You know about Kagebushin no Jutsu? The technique that you used to create multi-copies of yourself? Artemis asked. It was one of Naruto's most annoying techniques in her opinion, not to mention it was also his most favorite one. Deal with one Naruto already gave her enough headache, let alone 10 or even 100 of him. Shadow clones, right? Did you know that despite being separated, clones still bear connections with me? Naruto explained with a smile. A characteristic that is unique to the shadow clone technique is that any experience the clones gain during their existence is transferred to the user once they are dispersed. Artemis' eyes widened in surprise at that. Her mind automatically came to a conclusion for his abnormal request. You mean, you will leave a clone to see my true form? Naruto nodded. While you looking away, when it was destroyed, you will know what he saw. and he nodded again. I must say, quite clever for you to come up with something like that. Yeah, I kind of figured it out this morning, Naruto said. But why ask me for this? Artemis asked suspiciously. You can ask father, or maybe Hera for this. Surely they would be more than happy to grant your wish. She finished by crossing her arms together. Well, since you're already here, I guess a small favor like this won't be a problem, Naruto said while scratching the back of his head. Then an idea came to his mind. A mischievous smile appeared on his face as he grinned at her. Maybe I will ask Aphrodite. I'm sure she is free right now. Naruto knew that he had touched a sore spot in Artemis, because a tick mark appeared on Artemis' head when she heard the name of her most hated goddess in her list. All right then, Blondie. Artemis stepped back, making some space between her and Naruto. But what if you are? She asked with a hint of worriedness in her tone. Don't worry, Artemis. Naruto smiled fondly at her. Who could have thought that the cold goddess of the moon would have some soft spot like that? My clones only transfer the information, not the pain or anything. Remember when you stabbed a knife through one of their head? I didn't die, did I? A shadow clone appeared beside him and stepped forward, standing in front of Artemis with his hand in his pockets. Okay then, Artemis nodded and waited for Naruto to turn around before transforming into her true form. Naruto stood waiting. He could feel a massive wave of raw energy crash into his back, like every time a god teleported away beside him. Naruto could also see silver aurora-like light dance beautifully around him. He waited for his clone to be destroyed, and waited for the information about Artemis' true appearance come to his mind. He then heard a light gasp of shock and could tell it was from Artemis, a little higher and more feminine than Artemis' usual tone, almost girlish in a way he couldn't think possible for a cold goddess like her. What happened? Naruto thought inside of his head. As far as he could think of, his clone should be destroyed right after Artemis finished her transformation, and yet, it could not be possible. He then felt a light tap on his shoulder and turned around slightly to see his clone, still standing there well and healthy. He was also in shock with his eyes as wide as dinner plates. Boss, I think you should see it for yourself, he said before turning the original Naruto around before disappearing. Naruto braced himself from getting killed, but surprisingly he still didn't have a free ticket to the boat, his uncle's domain. He was shocked, of course. The information came to his mind as soon as he saw Artemis' divine form, and the blonde was completely lost for word because standing in front of him was the most beautiful woman, and in his opinion even more beautiful than Aphrodite herself. Even though her appearance changed slightly, Naruto could still recognize the curves of Artemis' face. However, her auburn hair gone and replaced with flowing pure white hair with some blue and silver fringes at the front bands and at the end of her incredible long hair. The goddess in her divine form was wearing a silver, traditional Grecian dress that ended at her mid-thighs and opened slightly at the front, revealing some of her cleavage, a red belt around her hip. She was also wearing an elegant hairpin with an emerald in the middle on the right side, her white lock and a gold crescent moon in front of her forehead, attracted to a silver ring wore on her head. Artemis' bow transformed, and she was now holding a silver bow with the string itself made from pure energy. Her hunting knife strapped on her waist, from celestial bronze, became a silver crystal-like metal. Wow! Naruto could only manage some words out of his dazed state. He was lost in her beauty and admitted it straight away. There were no words to justification. You're so beautiful. Artemis was a little taken apart by his words, but other than reply his compliment for her, she took a step forward and asked, You didn't die, you can see me like this? She was shocked, completely shocked. Naruto was the first, if not the only mortal in existence was able to see godly form. How? I don't know. Naruto stuttered. Wow. He said once again. This time, Artemis' cheeks became a little pink. Clearly the blonde was lost in her beauty. Artemis knew that in term of goddess, her true form could be called one of the most beautiful, since her beauty was natural, was absolutely pure, the beauty of an eternal maiden. She got many compliments from the other immortals around the first day she was on Olympus, but for some reason, the way Naruto was lost in her beauty warmed her heart up. Wait, Artemis shook her head side to side before glaring at him, slowly returning to her normal form. Don't get used to it, Uzumaki. Being able to see our godly form won't make you any special in my opinion. She pointed at him. Well, I guess. Naruto nodded his head. I think I will have to report this to your parent. Naruto nodded once again at her words. Your case is indeed very special, even though you're just only a full-blood mortal. She once again transformed into her godly form. This time she didn't need to wait till Naruto to turn away to do so. I'll see you in our next match. she said, and her body engulfed in light. Like a supernova she disappeared. Naruto stood there, his body was still freezing. Damn! Naruto turned around and walked back into the camp. Line break. Naruto stood in front of cabin 10, Aphrodite's children cabin, and knocked on the door for a few times, waiting patiently for someone to answer his call. He was here to see Silena, to make sure that she was alright. The accident a few days ago with Peach being shot by the mysterious archer and Silena fell from his back from hundreds of feet above the ground. A life and death situation like that could leave the girl some mentally damages. Coming, a girlish voice could be heard, and a second later the door was opened. Standing in front of him was a tall, beautiful and glamorous Asian girl with dark hair and ringlets, warm brown eyes, plenty of jewelry and perfect makeup. She was also wearing lots of pink eyeliner and makeup, very typical Aphrodite's girl. Oh, hello Lord Naruto. Drew lowered her head little, in the presence of the Prince of Olympus and also the one who drove them to hell these past few days. For the last time, please don't call me that. Naruto groaned. Natural spirits and some of Aphrodite's daughters were the only ones that were still calling him Lord. No matter how many times he told them, they still didn't change their mind. Natural spirits called him that because they respected him for being a Sennin, the one who mastered the art of natural energy, but when Aphrodite's daughters called him that, he felt like they were talking to him like they were talking to their future stepfather, which was very uncomfortable considering what Aphrodite had been trying to do from the day they met. Why are you here, Lord Naruto? Drew asked. If you want us to contact our mother, then we will. No, I can meet her whenever I want. Naruto cut her off gently, raising his hand. He could see that his presence was earning some of the attention from some of the cabin 10's residents, as they were staring at him from inside of the blue cabin. Is Silena here? He asked. Drew was a little surprised by this. Multi-question and possible possibilities flashed through her mind in a few seconds. Because Drew was one of the most stereotyped Aphrodite's children, all of her thoughts circling around the love topic. Ah yes, she is inside. Drew was snapped out of her thought when she finally realized that Naruto was still waiting for her answer. Can you call her for me? He asked. Why yeah. Drew turned around a little and looked at her siblings. You heard him, some of you go get Silena. Instantly some of Cabin 10's members rushed into the house to get Silena, not wanted to upset the prince. So, can I know the reason why you want to meet our head counselor? Drew asked. Nothing much, I just want to make sure she is fine, that's all. Naruto said truthfully now that picked up Drew's interest. Before she could say anything more, Naruto's face brightened up instantly when he saw the girl he was looking for walking toward him. Hey Silena, Naruto waved at her. The girl was having her hair brown and eyes black, with the former tied into 2 braids at either side of her head. Even though she wasn't wearing any makeups, it didn't make her any less beautiful and attractive. Hi Naruto. Silena smiled at him and looked at Drew. Can you leave us alone for a moment, Drew? The beautiful girl asked her sister, which the other girl nodded and walked away. Silena then turned back to Naruto and smiled. How are you today, Naruto? I'm good. Naruto grinned broadly. What about you, Silena? I hope the accident a few days ago. He lowered his voice a little. Well, you know, I'm stronger than you think, Naruto. Silena smiled teasingly at him, making the blonde scratch the back of his head while smiling embarrassedly. Remember that I was the first girl of Cabin 10 managed to climb the climbing wall. Yeah, you're also the only one managed to finish 10 rounds around the camp in time. Naruto reminded her, and Silena nodded her head in agreement. Silena was quite impressive for a child of Aphrodite. She wasn't only the hottest girl around but also one of the only girls that got enough will and determination to push through his tough training. Spending his time training Aphrodite, he could see that Silena was the one who inherited all of Aphrodite's good qualities. Hey Naruto, would you like to have another ride with Peace? He misses you, you know. Aphrodite's oldest daughter leaned her body against the door frame and crossed her arms underneath her ample breasts. Really? How is his wound? Naruto asked. Apollo's boys took a good care of his wing. He is back at the best shape now. Silena smiled softly. So, you're up to another fly? Probably. Call me when you're ready, alright. Naruto nodded his head rapidly. Will do. Silena stepped back and closed the door, not before waving her hand at Naruto and flashed him a very charming smile. See you later, Naruto. Silena closed the door with the smile still on her face. When she turned around, that smile instantly disappeared when she saw Drew standing there with an unreadable expression on her face. But because she was, no matter the differences, an Aphrodite's daughter, so she knew what that expression was about. Mother said Lord Naruto is hers, Silena. Drew said matter of fact, glaring slightly at her older sister. I did remember what Mother told me, Drew. Silena replied with unwavering tone. Plus, we're just friend Drew. You sure? Drew asked. The way he is so concerned about you and the way you talk to him, Mother won't be pleased with you, sister, if I accidentally fell for him, Drew. The brunette pressed. Don't you think that our mother will be the first one who knows? She then walked past Drew and, even if I do, all fair in love and war, sister. Drew instantly snapped her head to the side, looking at Silena in disbelief, who only winked at her and stepped inside. Line break. Caitlyn sharp gulped while she stared at Naruto Uzumaki from behind, sitting on the seat behind him, who was conversing with his self-proclaiming best friend, Daniel. The pen in her hand was tapping rapidly on the table, showing just how nervous she was right now. Nah. But immediately she stopped herself from calling out for him. Luckily for her, Naruto was busing playing a card game with Daniel, so he didn't hear her. Last night, and even a night before that, she reread the film script director gave to her, and no matter how many times she read it, she couldn't help but feel extremely embarrassed. The director made sure every single description of his film script was as detailed as possible. So unfortunately or fortunately for her, Caitlyn had some rather wet dreams lately, with herself and a certain blonde boy at the main characters. Naked, sweaty, Caitlyn blushed brightly as her mind played back the dreams she had last night. The making of Ring of Fighters would start at this Sunday, which meant 2 days from now. The director only told the school's managers so Naruto and Caitlyn could skip school for a few weeks. Class ended faster than she thought. Naruto, Naruto! Caitlyn called out to him while her friend was gathering his things, as they were the last students in their class. Yes? Naruto looked at her. I was wondering, well. She looked uncomfortable. If you're free this Saturday? She couldn't believe that she was asking Naruto this. More or less she was asking him out to an actual date. When it came to romance on camera, she acted it out plenty of times and even studied it quite a bit so that she could act as real as she could on stage. Yet she was stuttering. This was after all her first time asking a boy out. Yeah, I'm free, I guess. Naruto nodded his head, a little curious about what she was talking about. Would you like to, hang around? Caitlyn asked before quickly added. To discuss about the film, I mean, sure, why not? Naruto grinned. I'm kind of new to these kinds of things, so maybe you can give me some good advice. Great, Saturday, 7 o'clock in the morning, alright? Sure, Caitlyn couldn't help but smile at this. Chapter 23. Caitlyn Sharp stood in front of the mirror, only in her bra and panties, with 2 different kind of clothes in her hands, wondering which was the best choice for today, which was more or less the first date of her life. Caitlyn was AMD always would be the center of attention, not only because she was one of the current most successful on the rise stars of the entertainment world. She was also the youngest daughter of the Sharp family. People could easily recognize her whenever she goes, especially the overexcited fans. But fortunately for her, Naruto once again lent her his cap yesterday, the same one he gave to her during the trip to New York, so she could more or less hide herself, drawing as little attention as she could away from everyone's eyes. Caitlyn couldn't help but smile at that, looking at the clock. She still had an hour before Naruto arrived to get her, so she still had plenty of times to make herself perfect, and hopefully enough to impress the dense boy, who was still thinking that this was just a simple day between 2 friends and soon-to-be co-workers. Someone like Naruto truly worth her a try. The fact that he was still single made things even more easier and better for her. If things were going to play out well between them, at least the love scenes they were going to play in the Ring of Fighter might be a little less awkward for both of them. Line break. At the same time. Why do we have to train so early in the morning? Aphrodite asked as she tightened her hands around the handle of Vinculum, standing in front of Naruto, who was holding its scabbard in his right hand, using it to teach spar with Aphrodite. The goddess of love was definitely not a natural sword user, but like how she trained in hand combat, Aphrodite paid extra attention to what she taught her and tried her best to mimic his movements. Her determination was something Naruto greatly respected. He could even see himself back then when he was young and immature from her and had fun teaching Aphrodite how to prove herself. He now understood the feeling of his late teacher, Jiraiya, when the old Toad Sage took him to his 2.5 training. Because Aphrodite, I'm busy today, Naruto said, making the love goddess raise an eyebrow in surprise. But I didn't want to skip your training, so we have to train a little earlier than usual. Want to tell me? The love goddess smiled before rushing forward and bring her katana down from the above of her head, only to be blocked easily by Naruto, who only needed to raise the scabbard. I thought you didn't have school on Saturday. No, I didn't. Naruto blocked and blocked and blocked every strikes from Aphrodite, much to her frustration. Training even before Apollo started the engine of his chariot, and she still couldn't land a single hit on him. I'm going to hang out with a friend of mine from Harvard University today. Oh, is that so? Aphrodite stopped and quickly leaped backward, making some distance between her and Naruto, never reveal an opening like what he taught her. What is his name? She held vinculum with both hands and lowered her body down a little in a traditional stance of Japanese swordplay. Naruto learned from a book and taught it to Aphrodite, before charging at him once again. This time she was sure she might be able to land a hit on his forehead protector and get the kiss she deserved. No, it's a girl. Naruto was ready for her. This time he stopped playing around because he saw Aphrodite's hardened eyes. Caitlyn Sharp! To his surprise, the love goddess widened her eyes in shock at that moment, and her feet tripped over, falling down face first and dashed for a meter or two on the ground. Hey, you okay? Naruto asked concernedly, running to the fallen goddess and kneeled beside her. Are you serious? Aphrodite's head snapped up so fast that not even his eyes could follow. A few scratches on her cheeks and forehead, her beautiful face dirty, but overall she was completely fine. Caitlyn Sharp? That mortal? Yeah, you know her? Naruto didn't expect that Caitlyn's popularity was able to reach even the godly dream, and the girl was even known by the goddess of beauty herself. Of course I know her. I had been trying to pair that girl with a boy for some times now, but for some reason my power wasn't able to work on her. Naruto widened his eyes at that. Now that was new. She is also the attention of the male gods lately, so of course I know her. Aphrodite then shook her head rapidly before saying, Wait a minute, are you telling me that you're going to hang out with her today? As in, a date? She cried out with a very high-pitched voice. Date? We're just friends, you know. Naruto told her, but clearly his words meant nothing to this goddess. What are you thinking anyway? Who asked first? You or that mortal girl? The love goddess instantly shot to her knees and kneeled in front of Naruto, glaring at him as if he just did something wrong. Well, Caitlyn was the one. He then looked around to make sure no one was within hearing range before telling to Aphrodite with a very low tone. Don't tell anyone, alright, but I'm going to play as Sean Ho-sun, the male protagonist of the action, MMA fighting movie Ring of Fighters. Isn't it cool? He asked with a smugly smirk. You! Aphrodite gasped in shock. In a movie? For real? She used to date a very famous film star of Cherokee descent, Tristan McLean, and even had a daughter with him. Well, I passed the interview. Naruto grinned. Caitlyn is my classmate at school. She was the one who gave me the leaflet about the audition for the Ring of Fighter. While with my shinobi skills, acting as a different character is never a problem. This is the first time I actually participate in an actual movie, so this whole experience is kind of new to me. Caitlyn is going to give me some advices and discuss about the film script today. It is very nice of her to do so. Aphrodite looked at Naruto for a few seconds before closing her eyes, focusing her powers toward Caitlyn Sharp, who was at least thousands of miles away from them. For some reason, most of her love interfere abilities, like the abilities to interfere and shape love life, might not work on Caitlyn, but not all of her love power was useless on this girl, like Aphrodite's love sensory power. Her eyes snapped wide open when she felt a spark of the feeling for the Prince of Olympus was much stronger than a normal and healthy friendship. No way, Aphrodite looked at Naruto in shock, while at the same time considering about his words. Just how dense you can possibly be? She asked in disbelief. Huh! Was all his reply. The love goddess was torn. She didn't know what to do in this situation. Being the goddess of love, it was her duty to make the love between mortal to blossom beautifully, especially the more potential couple could become a masterpiece of her work, something like Naruto and Caitlyn Sharp. However, as a girl who was searching for her soulmate, Aphrodite felt a little jealous that someone, a mere mortal no less, already made a move on Naruto. Naruto was rather dense, yes, but he was very smart in a very strange way, and sooner or later, by the time he come to understand a girl's feeling, he would know Caitlyn's growing feeling for him, and who was he to deny such a relationship with the girl even gods themselves desired like that? Plus, Naruto was too much of a waste to waste on a mortal. Naruto made her felt special in a very special way, something that none of her lovers in the past could do. He taught her many things, so that she could make everyone see past her slutty reputation. Even if he himself was still not comfortable with the way she was, Naruto still accepted the girl she was with a grin. Naruto was also one of the only, if not wanted to say able to deny her charm speak power with willpower alone, and wasn't blindly affected by her beauty like most males. For some reason, she got the feeling that he was the one for her. She didn't know why she got that feeling, maybe because she read too much romantic novels or watched and shaped too much loving relationships between lovers. Man, look at the time. Naruto stood up and took out his cell phone to see the time. He got 10 minutes to get to Caitlyn's apartment to get her, so he should get going now. That's enough for today, Aphrodite, see you later. He gave her back Viculam's scabbard before disappearing in a flash of yellow. The love goddess sheathed her katana into her scabbard before clicking her fingers, making it disappear into her storage dimension. Standing up, Aphrodite cleaned herself with her power and reactivated her appearance alteration power before flashing away rather violently. The ground underneath her feet burned away from her raw power. She wasn't going to sit still and see her sensei being taken away by a mere mortal girl who happened to be cuter than the other, sexier than the other, and could sing and act better than the other. Hell, Aphrodite could even do them 1,000 times better than the girls. True love or not, she would have to have Naruto for herself and would never let anyone, especially a certain clear-sighted mortal girl, take him away. Being the love goddess didn't allow her to fail in a battle love. Line break. Naruto stood outside Harvard University's gate with his hands in his pocket, waiting for Caitlyn to arrive. The two agreed to meet with each other here. Naruto thought it would be better if he comes to her apartment at Millennium Place to get her, but Caitlyn thought it wouldn't be a good idea because reporters, especially photographers, were always around the place. It would be very troublesome if she was found stepping out of her house with a young man next to her. Those like Daniel would misunderstand him as Caitlyn's love interest and would start to bother him to no end. Naruto didn't have to wait long because a minute after his arrival, he felt Caitlyn's signature slowly approached him. Turning his head to the side, Naruto smiled when he saw the girl he was waiting for walking toward him, wearing a white t-shirt and long white coat that reached down to her mid-thighs, dark-colored jeans that showed off her legs, and white sneakers. Caitlyn was also wearing his hat on top of her head. "Hi Naruto," the girl cheerfully greeted him. "Sorry for letting you waiting?" "Nah, I just arrived too, you know." Naruto shook his head, grinning at her. "So? Shall we go?" "Alright." Caitlyn nodded her head and followed closely beside Naruto, who couldn't help but notice an attractive black-haired woman wearing glasses hiding at the other side of the street, poking her head out to look at them, giving out a very familiar feeling of a certain love goddess. Naruto couldn't help but sigh mentally. This goddess was the most stubborn girl he had ever met. He told her that this was, by no means a date between couple, and yet she was here, spying on them as if spying on a real couple. Naruto heard that this goddess enjoyed messing around with the love feeling between boy and girl, so he better not let her ruin his day with Caitlyn. "You're thinking like that is something so important," Kurama grumbled inside of his mindscape. Why is that?" The Kyuubi only sighed. Even he, who wasn't a human to begin with, could see something new between these two, and yet his vessel wasn't able to see it, even thought it was right in front of his eyes. "Here's an advice, brat. Don't let that goddess around while you're hanging around with this girl," Kurama sagely advised before lowering his head. "I think you're right." Naruto nodded before suddenly took Caitlyn's hands into his, much to her surprise. "You know what, Kate?" He spoke to the blushing girl. "How about I take you to somewhere fun?" Alright," the girl stuttered with her cheeks red, feeling his strong hand wrapped around her much smaller one. Aphrodite widened her eyes when she saw Naruto and that girl. Caitlyn suddenly ran away and quickly followed behind them. However, when the two turned around in a corner, Aphrodite suddenly lost sight of them, which was almost next to impossible because this corner had a dead end. Gritting her teeth in anger, Aphrodite stomped her foot down to the ground rapidly to unleash her anger. The sunglasses fell off her eyes to the ground. Oh my! Soon enough, her unnatural beauty caught the attention of a group of muscular men who walked out of a fitness center nearby, who gathered their courage and approached her with a charming smile on their face, pretending to act cool. "What's wrong, lady?" They blushed brightly when she turned around and faced them. Aphrodite's appearance was different in these men's eyes because of her power, but all were beautiful with busted body. "What?" she asked with frustration clearly in her voice. "Did your boyfriend just cheat on you?" The leader asked with a grin. His body moved slightly to show off his muscles. "Do you want to hang out? We can make you feel better, you know." "Sorry, I'm not interested," the goddess said blankly. Before, she probably took such a generous offer from a ground of handsome bodybuilders, but now, she wasn't even a little interested in them. The love goddess turned around and about to walk away but stopped when she found a large hand placed on her shoulder. "Excuse me, I think that you're..." But the leader of the group suddenly found his body became weightless, as Aphrodite grabbed his wrist and kicked her leg backward, throwing the man twice the size of her over her shoulder and threw him straight into a dozen of garbage bins a few feet away from them. The group of men could only look at Aphrodite in shock, and the love goddess herself was looking at her hands in surprise. In all her wildest dream, she would never think she was capable of doing something like that. A smirk made it to her face. So, this was what Naruto was talking about. Turning around, Aphrodite looked at the group of men while smiling charmingly, cracking her fist dangerously before saying to them, "Well? Aren't you about to take the revenge for your friend over there and make this lady spread her legs in a proper place she is?" The men could only look at each other before charging at her, completely unaware of the fate they were about to suffer, while Aphrodite was beating the living day out of them, testing everything Naruto taught her. Turned out that the dead end of the corner wasn't a dead end at all but a very strong illusion, casted by someone way stronger than her. Naruto stopped and looked around, making sure Aphrodite wasn't near them. "Oh, a restaurant?" Caitlyn asked in surprise when she realized the two was standing in front of a fancy restaurant, feeling impressed. She was probably thinking that Naruto was about to take her in to have breakfast until. "Ramen!" Naruto cried out in delight when he saw a small ramen stand at the other side of the street. "Thank Father for this," he said excitedly. Caitlyn looked at him curiously for what he just said but flinched in surprise when the blonde suddenly turned to her. "Hey Kate, do you want to have ramen for breakfast?" Sure." The girl nodded. "Why not?" She laughed nervously while being pulled toward the ramen stand by Naruto. The two quickly arrived and Naruto hurriedly pushed Caitlyn to a seat at the empty table put beside the ramen stand. It had been days since he got his last bowl of ramen, and he was dying from having some right now. The blonde took in the smell and felt his mouth watered. The smell alone could put Ichiraku's famous ramen a run for their money. "You, wait here, okay? I will return later," Naruto told Caitlyn and quickly ran to the stand, where a woman wearing a white shirt and dark brown pants, a chef hat on her head, was standing behind. He pulled out his wallet and said, "2 bowl of ramen please, coming right on." His head snapped up instantly when he heard that voice and couldn't help but widen his eyes when he saw one of his most favorite family members in the world standing there smiling at him. It was Hestia. "Andy?" Naruto asked in shock. "What are you doing here?" "Well, as you already know, this town doesn't have any place that sells good ramen," Hestia said softly to him while bringing out a bag of noodle. "So I think that it is about time a free goddess like me start a good business. Auntie, be serious." Naruto couldn't help but laugh a little at that. "Sorry." The kind goddess smiled. "I thought you might want to impress the girl with your most favorite food, so I think I should lend you a hand, for real?" "Thank you, Auntie Hestia, you're the best," Naruto said excitedly to her. "And should you give me a thank you for helping you get rid of Aphrodite?" "It was you?" He was kind of feeling surprised when he realized Aphrodite had stopped following him, since when she already made up her mind, there wasn't anything in this world could stop her. "Thank you, Auntie." Naruto thanked her gratefully. "You deserve it, Naruto," Hestia smiled. "Now, you should return to Caitlyn sharp. She is probably what is her date doing with the ramen stand's owner," the brown-haired goddess said playfully, looking at Caitlyn who was staring at them from with curious in her eyes. "Not you too, Auntie," Naruto whined before returning to his seat, sitting opposite from Caitlyn. "You two know each other?" Caitlyn asked, leaning against the table. "Yeah, she is one of my most favorite chefs in the world." Naruto had tasted Hestia's cooking before and they were all the best quality foods in the world, especially the ramen. They could put his mother's ramen a run for the money. "You really like ramen, do you?" Caitlyn asked amusedly. "Oh yeah, I do." Naruto nodded his head and handed Caitlyn a pair of chopsticks. "Here you go, thank you, Naruto." Caitlyn nodded her head, taking the chopsticks into her hands before looking at it curiously before looking up to ask him. "What do I use this for?" she asked, like it was the most oblivious question in the world. Naruto looked at her like she was an alien. Did this girl actually never use a chopstick to eat Asian food before in her life? Later that night. "You have fun today?" Naruto asked, with Caitlyn standing in front of him outside her apartment at Millennium Place. It took him some time to sneak past the reporter and photographers, but he wanted to make sure that Caitlyn get back to her apartment safely. Naruto thought today they're going to discuss about the Ring of Fighter, whose making was going to start tomorrow morning. However, the both of them actually got a little carried away with all the fun they could get this morning. Naruto took her to various places that he thought was fun enough for both of them, including 2 game centers, a shopping mall, a theme park, and their last destination being the same restaurant Naruto took her into, and here Caitlyn thought Naruto didn't have enough money to effort the place. I had a lot of fun, thanks to you, Caitlyn said, smiling at him. So, you're ready for tomorrow? She asked, and at that moment, Caitlyn realized she made a wrong choice of topic. Well, yeah, kind of, now that he was feeling a little comfortable with this topic and Caitlyn was also feeling the same. Senaho-san, the main protagonist of the Ring of Fighter, the one Naruto was going to play at, and Sarah Jones, a fatherless girl who lived with her mother in a small house outside of New York. Caitlyn's soon-to-be character were childhood friend who was always with each other from the first day of their life. The two went to the same kindergarten, primary school, secondary school and high school together. Sean and Sarah got together at the first day of their college and became a couple from there. Unfortunately for the two, it was the start of the film. The first scene was also their kissing scene in Sean's house. Also, child Sean and Sarah's actors were already chosen. So, Naruto said a little uncomfortably. It will be my first kiss, you know. Me too, Caitlyn nodded her head. Can't say I'm not looking forward to it, really? Caitlyn asked hopefully. Nah, just kidding. The girl punched him hard but laughed nonetheless. She could see that Naruto was trying to increase the mood between them. I never in a close relationship with a girl before, let alone kiss them. Naruto then realized that he was talking too much. See you tomorrow, Kate. The blonde turned around and hurriedly left the place. However, he was stopped when Caitlyn suddenly grabbed the sleeves of his jacket. Caitlyn, do you want to come in and practice? Caitlyn asked quietly, finding some unknown interest in her shoes. Naruto couldn't help but widen his eyes in surprise. So the two of us won't get embarrassed because of we're inexperienced. Well, if you said so. Naruto nodded at her logic with a forced smile. Caitlyn led Naruto into her apartment and closed the door behind her. Line break. There were many kinds of practice, but did practice kissing could consider a kind of practice. Naruto was sitting on the lawn of Caitlyn's living room and Caitlyn sitting on his lap, with her face dangerous close to him. Their cheeks were red, but Caitlyn was a lot redder than Naruto was, but it wasn't like he was less shy about this than Caitlyn. When he signed up for Ring of Fighters interview, he didn't sign up for this. He was expecting some hell of a fight with co-actors who were one hell of MMA fighters. You ready? The girl asked quietly. He could feel her hot breath right with his face, as well as the way her large breasts were pressing against his chest. Why, yeah. And Caitlyn closed the tiny gasp between their face and planted her lips on top of his. And no sooner did she do that, Caitlyn took her lips away from him. Hey, you don't have to do it, you don't want to, you know. Naruto told her, even if it was just for a second, he could feel her soft lips on top of his and a feeling that he had never felt before. It felt good to say the least. No, I want to do it, Caitlyn said, wrapping her arms around his neck and kissed him again. This time she didn't separate from him but slowly coming to enjoy their first kiss. They started slowly as first, kissing while nipping each other's lips. Naruto's arms wrapped around the other blonde's back so he could bring her close to him, as close as possible. They closed their eyes, their lips leaving for just a second so Caitlyn could turn her head slightly to the side, giving herself more access to his lips. The kiss soon heated up as at the same time, Naruto and Caitlyn opened their mouth and let their tongue move out and wrapped around each other in a heat French kiss. Caitlyn watched enough movies to know what to do with a kiss, and Naruto just had to mimic Caitlyn's tongue's movement and let his instinct guide him. His right hand roamed around her back while his left reached into her shirt, moved up the left side of her body, feeling her smooth and soft skin with his hands. The two kissed each other passionately, finally getting used to the other and came to enjoy it. After a few minutes of passionate making out, Caitlyn pulled back and grabbed the end of her t-shirt and pulled it over her head, leaving her upper body and only her black bra before lowering down Naruto again, faster than before, and captured his lips. With his hands on her hip, Naruto pushed Caitlyn down to the lawn and kissed her harder. His right hand placed somehow found its way to her right boob and groped them while his right one placed underneath her thigh, bringing her leg up. The girl moaned out at the feeling of Naruto's hand on her right breasts. Not to be outdone, she pushed Naruto back slightly and removed his shirt. I think the next time we do this, Caitlyn muttered as she eyes Naruto's delicious body, lean yet muscular, the masterpiece of a girl's fantasy about their boyfriend. We both won't get too uncomfortable with each other, will we? She asked teasingly. Yeah, maybe. Naruto grinned. You sure you want to do this? Probably. Caitlyn nodded her head at that and sat up slightly to wrap her arms around Naruto. The bedroom is at the right, she whispered into his ear. Naruto smirked and got off the lawn, putting his hands underneath her knees and the other underneath her back to support her before lifting her up and walked to her bedroom, carrying her bridal style. Chapter 24. Stop it! Caitlyn saw herself cried out in terror, running as fast as her legs could carry her toward the fierce battle between two beautiful women, one with auburn red hair and another with golden blonde hair, the latter holding a long katana in her hands as she clashed against the auburn's massive dual hunting knives. She could feel hot tears on her cheeks. Caitlyn was crying. Her body was shaking, but it wasn't from the violent shockwaves coming from the clash. She felt something already dead inside her, but didn't know what. Please listen to me, Aphrodite, the auburn-haired woman said as she tried to hold her ground against the sword welder. It was your fault, the blonde, whose name Aphrodite cried out with tears in her eyes. Your fault! Your fault! Your fault! With each cry, Aphrodite brought her sword down as hard as she could her opponent, who could only raise her weapons to block it. Your fault, Artemis! If he didn't fall for you, he would live! Artemis gritted her teeth as the powerful shockwave hit against her face, cutting her cheeks and forehead. However, she didn't expect the blonde to raise her leg and kicked her in the stomach, sending her across the field. Artemis stabbed her blades on the ground to stop herself. Aphrodite glared hatefully at her and gripped her sword harder, stomping toward Artemis, a dark and cruel smile on her beautiful face. Please stop! Caitlyn cried and stood in front of Artemis with her arms outstretched. Caitlyn? Both Artemis and Aphrodite said at once, but Artemis was the one who continued. What are you doing here? Run! She's not your sister anymore. But Caitlyn ignored her. Aphrodite, please stop, what happened to you? Caitlyn asked through tear. And Naruto would never want you to. But a crescent moon-shaped air blade suddenly passed through Caitlyn's head, cutting her hair and left a deep cut on her cheek. The air blade hit the ground far away from making it exploded. Don't you dare say his name in front of me, Aphrodite whispered dangerously while laughing like a maniac. All I want is to make him happy, so I am going to send his beloved puppy he risked his life to save to Elysium to him. Sister, this isn't you. Aphrodite, stop. 11 flashes of light appeared around them as a group led by a man with electric blue eyes appeared. You're out of control, calm down, Apollo said cheerfully, but there was a hint of tiredness in his voice, his hands covering in red blood. I'm here to tell you that. Shut up. Shut up. Shup up. Aphrodite cried as power flared around her. All of you just shut up. She grabbed her head and cried out with throat-tearing scream. Caitlyn cried out in pain as Aphrodite exploded with power. Caitlyn, hey Caitlyn. Caitlyn woke up from her sleep when she heard Naruto's voice. Her eyes snapped open and she found Naruto looking at her worriedly. What's wrong? Did you have nightmare? Naruto. Caitlyn muttered, feeling her body covered in sweats. Ah yes, it was just a nightmare. The girl tried to recall the nightmare she just had, but for some reason she couldn't. This was the first. Maybe she was too scared to actually put her mind to remember the details. Since it had been some time since she had those nightmares, Caitlyn actually stopped paying attention to them anymore. But she could remember one thing, it was Naruto's name. For some reason, the blonde was always the object of her nightmare. First, she thought it was someone else, but after coming to meet him, she finally realized that it was Naruto who was the one always present in her nightmare, which was strange enough to begin with. It's alright, Naruto said comfortingly. I'm here. Caitlyn nodded and turned her head to the side and saw it was 5:30 in the morning. She then lifted the cover up and saw herself naked underneath, finally acknowledged the soreness between her legs. So, we actually did it last night, didn't we? She asked, looking at Naruto, who then laid down to the bed. Yeah, you scratched me a lot last night, you know. Those violent scratches from Caitlyn all healed up instantly after they were made, but the girl actually knew how to use those colorful fingernails of her. Well, if you didn't get carried away, I wouldn't have to. Caitlyn pouted as she turned to the side and hugged him, putting one of her legs on his body. She could feel Naruto's hand on her hip as well. I guess these muscles of yours weren't made to impress girls only, Caitlyn said while moving the tip of her index finger on his chest. You're incredible, by the way. You too, Kate. Naruto chuckled. Damn, what a night. His eyes suddenly snapped open when he felt her hand caressing the length of his manhood. Do you want more? Caitlyn asked. I actually don't mind, since I don't see any tiredness from you even after our third round. Well, if you don't mind. Caitlyn giggled excitedly when Naruto grabbed the sheet and pulled it over their head, turning around roughly and got on top of her. Oh! Naughty boy, the girl cried out in delight when Naruto latched onto her ample breasts. Line break. Aphrodite! What in Hades' name did you do last night? The love goddess groaned out in annoyance when she heard Artemis cry outside of her palace, with her fist knocking violently against the gate. Not so soon in the morning, please. The love goddess groaned and sheathed her vinculum into its scabbard. After what happened yesterday, when she sent a group of men twice or even third the size at her into hospital with several broken bones and bruises on their body, Aphrodite was even more determined in training and actually got up very soon in the morning to train with vinculum. However, that was just one out of 2 reasons for her to suddenly pick up an interest in training like that. A very pure maiden was no longer a maiden last night, Artemis shouted. Her name is Caitlyn Sharp. It was you, wasn't it? Aphrodite stomped toward the door of her palace and pushed it open rather violently, standing face to face with Artemis with a scold on her face. Look, pup, Aphrodite said while crossing her arms underneath her chest. First of all, I don't need you to remind me that. Second of all, it wasn't I who did it. Even if I did, I would choose a more suitable partner than her, not the Prince of Olympus. She raised her voice in frustration and crossed her arms underneath her large breasts. This was also the reason why she trained sooner and harder this morning, in order to get to his forehead protector and got that kiss from Naruto, to prove that he was the one and they were meant to be with each other. Wait, you mean the one who stole that girl's virginity is Uzumaki? Duh, Aphrodite shrugged and slammed the door shut. Artemis was confused. The first things that raced through her mind were the disappointment and anger. Anger because surely she shouldn't expect something more from a son of Zeus, who sooner or later would follow his father's and most of his brothers' footsteps in going to woman after woman and has his way with them. Disappointment, because she gave Naruto too much credit, thinking that he might be different from all the males in the world, but the next thing raced through her mind made her stop death in her track. Even though it only appeared in her mind for just a millisecond before disappearing. Without a trace. Artemis was on the way to Olympus' throne room to report about Naruto's ability to see godly form. It was jealousy. First, she blushed when Naruto commented about the beauty while she was in her divine form. Now, she felt jealous. Just what the Hades was happening to her? Artemis spit the inside of her mouth to shake herself off those thoughts before continuing and stomping toward the throne room. Damn boy, damn, fish cake. The moon goddess couldn't help but unconsciously mutter those words under her breath. Kicking the throne room open, Artemis walked in and brought out her bow. Ignoring Hestia's warm greeting, she shot a silver arrow to the sky, summoning the Olympians' council. What now, Artemis? Aphrodite said in annoyance as she appeared on her throne. Tell me the reason why you summoned the council, Artemis. Zeus ordered powerfully. Father, your son, even though he is just a mortal Naruto, is capable of seeing me in our godly form. Her declaration made the Olympians gasp in shock, even Athena, who was reading a book, almost dropping it from her hands. Impossible, Aries cried. That punk is just a mere mortal. I showed him my true form, Aries. Artemis said emotionlessly before turning back to Zeus, explaining before any misunderstood could take place. He asked me to show him my true form, as he wanted to see how gods in their divine form look like through the use of shadow clones. Zeus, Hera, and Athena nodded their head. They were the only Olympians in this room other than Artemis and Hestia knew about the true benefit of shadow clones technique. However, when I turned to my divine form, I was shocked to see that his clone wasn't destroyed. It then called out to the original and Naruto turned around to look at me. Interesting. Athena nodded her head, her mind full of possibilities, theories about this. Well, bro is already powerful enough to begin with. Apollo said in amusement. Now you tell me that he can see us in our true form, the hell? Aphrodite who was paying more attention to the mirror she was holding while fixing herself, was actually having a goofy smile on her face. Her divine form was 10, or maybe 100,000 times more beautiful and more attractive than her normal form. This could be a chance for her to land a heavy blow on Naruto, as he was almost immune to her beauty. Also, Charm's beak was a lot stronger than usual in that form. Maybe it was the chance for her to make him hers. Zeus, do you think it had something to do with Kurama? Hera turned to her husband and asked. She too was quite surprised by this. I think it is possible. Zeus nodded his head before turning to Athena, the wisest goddess. Athena, what do you think about this? I got many theories. Athena spoke up loudly. Maybe it had something to do with the nine-tailed fox he has in his body. Maybe it was because of being a Sennin, having the same power as the lost lord of nature Pan. But I think the most possible theory is because you two. Even thought you two were in artifact human bodies when Hera gave birth to him. I think more or less some of your godly powers went into him, allowing Naruto to see us in our true form. Zeus nodded his head. I think this is just a start for the awakening of Naruto godly power inherited from you. I will need to see him directly to take more examinations. It seems that the time for him to join our rank is near. Zeus announced loudly, and most of the Olympians nodded their head, no one more excited than Aphrodite, but Ares only grumbled distastefully quietly under his breath. Oh, Artie, you look pissed. Apollo called out to his sister. What's wrong? First of, don't call me Artie, Artemis said in annoyance. Secondly, Naruto Uzumaki destroyed a maiden last night by taking her virginity. Zeus and Hera's eyes nearly bulged out of their sockets in shock, while Apollo and Hermes wolf whistled while high-fiving with each other. Hestia only sighed with a smile because she already knew about this. Around the Olympians' council, most of the Olympians were having the same reaction as the royal couple of Olympus. Then, we must celebrate this day, when Naruto got his first woma. But Zeus stopped his proudly announcement when he saw Hera's deadly glare. The king of the god quickly cleared his throat and said, I mean, since she might become my future daughter-in-law, what is her name? Is she immortal? I bet that she is hot. Was Apollo's words. Asked Aphrodite, it already bad enough that he humiliated my domain. Artemis walked toward her throne and sat down heavily. All heads turned to the goddess of love, who then looked around before saying, her name is Caitlyn Sharp, scored. Apollo and Hermes cheered out, but then, the sun god froze in shock. Wait a minute, yes Apollo, your little brother got that mortal girl first, none of you got any more chance with her now. Aphrodite sighed, glancing slightly at Ares. None of you, oh ho, watch me. Apollo grinned charmingly. Ahem. Zeus cleared his throat loudly, earning back the attention from the Olympians. We should stop this topic and back at the matter at hand. How's the quest doing? They're on their way, father. Athena said they have some unpleasant encounters with monsters, but still managed to overcome them. They're on their way to Las Vegas now. Zeus nodded his head. Wait a minute, don't tell me they're on their way to the underworld. Poseidon spoke up worriedly. Quite clear that they misunderstood Uncle Hades to be the one who stole the lightning bolt. Athena pointed out. But from Chiron's report, Percy Jackson, after he heard the prophecy, said that stolen object will be returned to the owner, so we should not worry too much about this. I understand. Zeus nodded his head. Now, if all of you have nothing more to say, council dismiss. Most of the Olympians stood up from their throne and flashed away. I think it's time we pay a visit to our son, to catch up with his life, you know. Zeus told Hera with a smile. The queen of the gods nodded her head while smiling warmly. She admitted that she didn't actually pay attention to her son's life lately, mainly because of her duty as a goddess, and the godly realm needed to be kept in check, especially around this time, when some of the minor gods starting to question about the Olympians' council after finding out that the Master Bolt was stolen. Line break. And cut! The director shouted loudly into the speaker, a wide smile on his face. Good work with the takeoff, everyone. Lunch break in 20 minutes. His assistant said to everyone. Naruto pulled back from Caitlyn and grinned widely at her, giving her his trademark expression. It wasn't that hard to kiss her in front of the film crew, who more than understood the responsibility of actors and didn't question how Naruto could kiss Caitlyn that normally like that. However, the crowd of students, especially the male population, who was standing behind the fences, was all glaring at him in jealousy. The set of Ring of Fighter was at New York University, so the filming crew managed to ask the school's directors to let them use their campus for the filming intention. Damn you, fish cake! Daniel, who was crying in jealousy, actually managed to get a position in this film, but unfortunately, his role wasn't anything important, only public people role. Hey, chill out. Naruto patted Daniel on the back while wearing a smugly grin. At least you will be there to see it happens. Shut up, Daniel groaned. Hey boys, water? Caitlyn appeared beside them carrying 3 bottles of water, hugging them closely to her body. Thanks, Kate. Naruto smiled and got himself one of them. Filming was quite fun to do. He met most of his co-actors this morning and they were all specialists and martial artists. He couldn't wait to experience the way Earth's fighters fight and would love to learn a few good moves. I also prepared some lunch boxes. You call them bento in Japanese, right? Caitlyn grabbed her basket and pulled out 2 lunch boxes wrapped carefully by colorful clothes. She turned to Daniel and said apologetically, Sorry, Daniel, but I only got another one for Naruto, not to worry. Daniel said with a very forced smile before nudging Naruto with his elbow. Told ya, she got a thing for you. Yeah, Naruto nodded his head with a bored expression before pushing his self-proclaimed friend away. After finding a rather private and comfortable spot to enjoy lunch for themselves, Naruto took the bento box Caitlyn prepared for him and unwrapped the orange cloth before opening it. "Wow, you prepared all of this?" Naruto asked, rather impressed by the foods inside the bento. He got a large amount of well-cooked rice, teriyaki chicken, 4 pieces of salmon sushi, 2 shrimps, roasted pork, pickles and of course, his least favorite but it was still there, vegetables. "You eat ramen all the time, Naruto, so I guess I will have to prepare something healthier for you." Caitlyn winked at him and opened her own bento, which was more or less the same as him but with lesser meat and more vegetables. "Hey, you're going to die if you only eat vegetable." Naruto grabbed the chopsticks and picked up some of his pieces of chicken and put them into Caitlyn's box, taking some of her vegetables for himself. "Hey," Caitlyn tired to take back her foods. "I'm going to get fat if I eat too much of this," she whined. "And I thought you hate vegetables," the girl pointed out, remembering yesterday when she had ramen for breakfast with him. The blonde absolutely stayed away from the vegetables even though the kind chef gave them plenty. Naruto only shrugged his shoulders, making Caitlyn giggle at his caring yet rather clumsy side. When the two of them were halfway through their lunch times, Sherry Bennett and Patrick Pearson, the children actors who played Child Sarah and Child Sean at the beginning of the film, approached them, holding the poster of Ring of Fighter in their hands. Miss Caitlyn," Patrick stuttered nervously, with Sherry following closely behind him with the same nervousness. "Yes." Caitlyn put the bento away and smiled warmly at them. "How can I help you?" We're wondering," Sherry shyly whispered, but still enough for them to hear. "Could you give us your signature? Please." The two pushed the poster in their hands forward, showing them to Caitlyn. "Oh, of course." Caitlyn smiled and took out a pen and stepped forward, getting down to her knees in front of the two children and signed the posters for them. Naruto couldn't help but smile at this. His girlfriend was such a wonderful girl. Line break: Naruto returned home after bringing Caitlyn back to her apartment. Today footages turned out to be quite successful. After his first day, Naruto could understand why Caitlyn enjoyed acting so much. He now had a girlfriend, not to mention a very beautiful, attractive and amazing one at that. Naruto couldn't help but smile widely at the thought. Pushing the door of his house opened, Naruto walked inside but immediately put on his guard when he saw the lights of his house were turned on. "Naruto, is it you?" His eyes widened when his mother's voice came from the kitchen. "Mom?" Naruto asked in surprise, lowering his guard. "Is that you?" He threw his backpack away and walked into the kitchen. "Hey, Naruto." His father, Zeus, who was sitting at the dining table, greeted him with a smile. "Dad?" Naruto asked in surprise, turning his eyes from his father to his mother, who was cooking what appearing to be a delicious dinner for 3, wearing a white apron around her waist. "What are you two doing here? Can a parent come to visit their son?" Hera approached him and kissed Naruto on his cheeks, wrapping her arms around his neck. "I miss you, Naruto," she said warmly. "Me too, Mom." Naruto smiled at her. "Sorry for not visiting you sooner, Naruto," Zeus said, standing up from his seat. "We're very busy lately." "Relax, Dad, I understand," Naruto said, nodding his head. "Stay out of trouble, I hope," he teased with a foxy grin. "Yeah," Zeus chuckled. "Sit down, Naruto, I am making dinner." Hera released her son and pulled the chair for him. "Thanks, Mom." Naruto smiled at her and sat down, making himself comfortable in front of his godly father. "So, Dad, how's things going on Olympus?" Hera then quickly returned to cook dinner. "Quite troublesome lately," Zeus said with a sigh. "Some of the minor gods are causing some trouble lately. The information about the Master Bolt was stolen somehow leaked out, making them question my position at the King of the Gods." Naruto nodded in understanding. "They started to side with Poseidon." Zeus then chuckled while shaking his head. "How ridiculous." "You know we have to do it, Dad, to lure the lightning thief out," Naruto said. "The quest, Percy and his friends definitely return your weapon to you, but what matter is to catch the lightning thief himself. Enough with that," Zeus suddenly said and leaned forward, looking at Naruto in amusement. "I heard you got yourself a very beautiful girlfriend now." Naruto widened his eyes in shock, glancing slightly at his mother, who was also looking at him with the same look his father was giving him. "Well," Naruto scratched the back of his head, looking away. "How did you two know about Caitlyn? You can say that what you did kind of pissed Artemis off." Naruto laughed nervously at his mother's words. "How long have you two known each other?" Hera asked while placing the dishes down the table. A few months, I think. Naruto thought out loud. But we started dating yesterday. His parent then gasped. Is it a bad thing? He still didn't know much about these kinds of things, so of course he wouldn't understand. Wait, you are telling me that you slept with her after the first date? Zeus Wolf whistled. I must say, very impressive young man. You definitely got it from me. The king of the gods immediately received a hard slap at the back of his head by his wife. Naruto, it's not a very good thing, you know, Hera said to him, sitting down on her chair. Do you understand her well enough? Well, Caitlyn is kind, caring, passionate. She loves acting, singing. Her favorite foods are vegetables and everything that is in her diet, which I don't like, by the way. She also enjoys reading romantic novels, listening to her own music, learning new things. She also enjoys myths, a great mind for art, especially Greek and Roman arts. Her favorite color is wit. Wait, you actually paid attention to all of that? Zeus asked in disbelief, and Naruto only nodded his head. Well, then we have nothing to worry. What about her parent? Well, so far I still don't have the favor to meet one of the most powerful men in the mortal world yet. Naruto grinned. But hey, I'm the Prince of Olympus, what could go wrong? He joked. We want you to be happy, Naruto, Hera said softly, holding Naruto's hands. Make sure to not fall into your father's footstep, hey, alright? I will, Mom. Naruto smiled. I'm more like you than him, enough with indirectly insulting me. Zeus winced and grabbed his bowl and chopsticks. Let's have dinner, I'm starving here. But I thought gods didn't need to eat normal foods to live, I'm the god of drama. The king of the god replied blankly, then broke out in laughter with his family. These moments only warmed Naruto's heart up. This was what Naruto always wanted in his life, a family.